In a bid for dominance, Russian officials fabricated an entire narrative of victorious advances, presenting heroic footage of their troops supposedly conquering Quarantine Island in the Dnipro River. The fake triumph was accompanied by claims of strategic control, with military bloggers praising alleged drone successes and artillery strikes. They painted a picture of Russian forces overpowering unsuspecting Ukrainian defenders, claiming a swift takeover of critical positions. But days later, a shocking revelation shattered this manufactured tale. The 34th Separate Coastal Defense Brigade released geolocated video proof, showcasing their troops not only safely traversing the island but also revealing it was peaceful and devoid of Russian control. As echoes of battle faded into silence, the Ukrainian forces showed undeniable evidence of their ongoing presence and vigilance along the Dnipro coastline. The insatiable hunger for narrative domination drove Russian state media to publish fabricated tales, with sources claiming both surprise and success in the mystery of Quarantine Island. Reports misrepresented the military landscape, showcasing quotes from officials who portrayed the island as a strategic stronghold. The ambitious claim of having outsmarted the enemy revealed a deeper desperation. The need for a facade of power became more apparent as the truth surfaced. What should have been a bold military undertaking was quickly revealed as an illusion, more fitting for a scripted drama than the gritty reality of warfare. As dramatic images of supposed battles and triumphant flag plantings surfaced, the stark truth lingered just behind them, waiting to expose the lies. With the Ukrainian brigade's swift rebuttal, this tale of victory turned into a shameful revelation, highlighting Russia's dwindling credibility. In a remarkable twist, a spokesman for the Defense Forces of Ukraine, Vladislav Voloshin, added humor to the somber reality, joyfully dancing on location to refute the false claims. This visual irony juxtaposed against the severity of the situation added a layer of astonishment to the whole event. As analysts dissected the unfolding story, it became clear that this was not merely about territory but a desperate attempt to maintain a narrative that had long since unraveled. The Institute for the Study of War revealed an unsettling truth: these fabrications were part of a broader campaign of cognitive warfare, intended to manipulate public perception both domestically and internationally. Russia's attempt at a rousing offense fell flat when juxtaposed with the undeniable reality on the ground that its forces were not gaining ground but rather scrambling to create an illusion of victories. What drives a nation to create such elaborate deceit? Amid the fog of war, the spectacle of a fabricated victory raises troubling questions about desperation, perception, and the lengths to which powers will go to assert their strength. One thing is clear: truth and perception clash violently on the battlefield, as the stakes continue to rise. Caught in the act of spinning tall tales? The Institute for the Study of War exposed how the Kremlin falsely claims Russian forces seized a bridgehead on the right bank near Kherson, labeling it a new wave of psychological warfare aimed at fooling Ukraine and its allies. Evidence paints a different picture entirely. Imagine the sting of a lie unraveled under the world's watchful eyes, sharp like a blade through fabric, leaving threads of embarrassment fluttering in the air. Did the Russian military bloggers' boasts about shoving Ukrainian troops from Sadova and launching sabotage raids near Antonivka hold any water? The ISW dug in and found zero proof, slamming shut the chapter of deception. The air crackled with tension as Russia's media machine scrambled, their voices echoing like distant thunder trying to drown out the truth. TASS quickly yanked an article claiming Russian control over Kherson Island, the stench of panic rising like smoke from a hastily extinguished fire. Fingers trembled over keyboards, hands sweating on lenses. Russian outlets rushed to erase their footprints, but the digital trail was damning. Why push such brazen falsehoods? The ISW peeled back the layers, sensing a deeper game. Russia dabbles in cognitive warfare, spinning minor sabotage and scouting ops in the Kherson district into the illusion of a full-blown offensive across the Dnipro River, aimed at reclaiming Kherson City and the region. The Kremlin craves to bamboozle the West, the European Union, and Ukraine itself, that victory is locked in, forcing Ukraine to surrender land and allies to halt aid. Yet, this mental chess move clashes loudly with any hint of Russian willingness to cede territory in southern Ukraine. The hum of propaganda drones buzzed overhead, but reality felt the ground tremble with its emptiness. Three harsh truths emerge from this tangled web. First off, picture desperation in its rawest form: a sinking ship clutching at fabricated floats. A genuine winner in war, sweeping ground and forging triumphs, never needs to conjure stories, it parades real victories like trophies in the sun. The gritty truth? Inventing wild tales about ground movements exposes Russia's dire spot. Back at the war's dawn, analysts foresaw hurdles, Ukrainian grit pushing back, but who could foresee nearly 4 years later the Kremlin stooping to absurd fictions to lodge itself as a powerhouse? Propaganda's bite is familiar under Vladimir Putin's rule, but faking a speck of an island's takeover, staging a video as evidence, that's scraping the bottom. You feel the weight of it, don't you? The cool, damp earth of Kherson's right bank underfoot, undisturbed by Russian boots, Ukraine's forces steady, their gaze unbroken. What desperate gamble will Russia unleash next to mask its crumbling facade? As doubts swirl like fog over the river's edge, imagine the Kremlin's shadow twitching in fear. The echoes of that humiliation linger, but what secret motive hides in the mist, ready to shock us all? In the last segment, Russia stumbled spectacularly when its fabricated victory on Kharkiv Island was exposed, proving the Kremlin resorts to desperate lies to mask its failures. Why does a superpower crave fabricated glory? Is Putin's empire crumbling faster than anyone imagined? Picture the Kremlin, shrouded in the cold, sterile glow of propaganda screens, reeking of stale smoke from endless meetings, as bloody generals tremble at truth's approach. That shocking desperation reveals Russia's true weakness, a nation inventing triumphs while real battles slip away. Echoing back to October's chill, when autumn leaves whispered defeat and the Dnipro's icy currents chilled to the bone against soldiers-soaked uniforms, analyzing open-source intelligence shows this was no sudden fall. Experts predicted struggles, but not this abyss. Nearly 4 years into the war, who foresaw the Kremlin reduced to crafting absurd fictions, desperately painting itself as invincible? Mistruths in propaganda remain Vladimir Putin's sharpest tools, sharp as a razor against flesh and disinformation wars. Yet staging conquest of a mere speck of land? Filming staged storms of warfare? Even for him, this plunges to a murky low, like drowning in one's own deceitful tales. Does the emperor truly have no clothes left to wear? Sensory echoes arise. In Moscow's fog-laden squares, the acrid scent of burning lies blends with the faint, metallic tang of thwarted ambitions. This leads to a profound revelation from the Institute for the Study of War: the Kremlin bends every scheme to sway Western powers. Like the United States and European Union allies. Is their goal to nurture illusions of unstoppable might? Fostering narratives of Russia's armored behemoths surging ahead, claiming Earth daily, awaiting Ukraine's bulwarks to shatter like fragile glass. That narrative, however, wilts under scrutiny, as vast evidence rejects it outright. In nearly 4 years, Russia clawed minor advantages, yet its advances crawl agonizingly, a sluggish beast ensnared in Ukraine's resilience. Can any rational mind claim victory amid such languor? Key bastions hold firm in Ukrainian grasp, from Pokrovsk's dusty, echo-filled ruins in Donetsk to other staunch defenses. Russia's toll? Catastrophic beyond measure: over 1 million warriors slain or maimed, a graveyard counting staggering hordes of tanks, armored beasts, jets, naval ghosts, radars, and aerial wards mangled into twisted scrap. Relying on fresh data and open intelligence, seasoned observers forecast Russia's grip on its initial targets, Donetsk, Luhansk, Kherson, and Zaporizhia, demands several grinding years more. Full dominion over Ukraine? A nightmare stretching into epochs, perhaps another century's shadow, where hubris meets harsh reality. Yet the Kremlin, knuckles whitening against truth's blade, clings to these veils. What dark motives drive this frenzy? A cognitive blitz to sow doubt, depicting isolated raids as precursors to river crossings and city seizures. This mocks any notion of Russia yielding southern soil. But in Kiev's resolute halls, amid the clamor of distant booms, Ukrainian wills harden. Is this the final humiliation? As Russia's illusions shatter once more? Tune in, for the tide may turn in unimaginable ways, exposing deeper fractures in an empire's facade. In a world where perceptions often outweigh reality, can the truth ever surface amidst a deluge of deception? Russia finds itself entangled in a war that began nearly 4 years ago, yet the narrative it spins is a tapestry woven with lies and fabrications, desperately attempting to cloak its failures. Recently, the Kremlin staged a grand display of victory over Ukraine, projecting a triumphant image of military prowess. But beneath this facade lies a starkly different reality. Just days ago, Vladimir Saldo, the head of Russia's puppet administration in the occupied city of Kherson, released dramatic footage of supposed Russian advances on Karantin Island. The video, underscored by intense music, depicted soldiers executing tactical maneuvers, traversing the unsettling waters, and engaging in fierce firefights amidst debris. Saldo proclaimed this an overwhelming Russian success, claiming a foothold had been established, setting the stage for broader incursions into Kherson city. Yet there was a catch, a glaring, unshakable flaw in this narrative. On October 23, Ukraine swiftly struck back, unveiling irrefutable evidence that shattered Russia's grand tale. The 34th Separate Coastal Defense Brigade presented a geolocated video, showcasing its forces moving freely across the very territory Russia claimed to have conquered. The verdant silence of Karantin Island belied Russia's assertions. Alongside their video, Ukrainian soldiers slammed the Kremlin's fabrications, revealing the sobering truth that Russian advances existed only in the realm of fiction, vaporizing in the wake of reality. Meanwhile, Ukrainian military spokesperson Vladislav Voloshin joyfully shared footage of himself on the island as a tangible rebuttal to the Kremlin's exaggerated claims. The disparity between Russia's deception and Ukraine's grounded truth became abundantly clear. Analysts concluded that the Kremlin's narratives were a desperate attempt to craft a semblance of success in a war that has been anything but victorious for them. But why concoct such outlandish reports in the first place? Experts suggest that Russia seeks to build a false narrative of victory, hoping to manipulate perceptions in the West so that allies would wane in support of Ukraine. This was evident in the rapid withdrawal of state-controlled media from its earlier claims about Russian troops' takeover of Kherson Island, scrambling to distance themselves from the absurdity of their own propaganda. The implications of these misleading reports are profound. The Kremlin hopes these fabrications can sway public opinion and reshape narratives. But one question remains: is it enough to alter the truth? With every attempt to alter reality, Russia reveals its increasingly desperate position. A nation on the brink of exhaustion, unable to secure significant victories, resorts to fiction to mask its shortcomings. Despite what the Kremlin claims, the facts remain stark. Russia's military struggles persist, and its dreams of conquest continue to crumble, echoing through the empty streets of Kherson as a painful reminder of its faltering ambition. General Jack Keane has made it clear, after years of conflict, Russia is losing in every meaningful aspect. Casualties, economic strife, and retention of territory paint a grim picture for the aggressor. The narrative spun by Russia is one of delusion rather than strength, and it is vital for Ukraine and its allies to consistently expose these lies. Amidst the chaos, the true path lies in unwavering commitment to the facts. The truth, regardless of how obscured, must prevail, because despite the Kremlin's claims, Russia remains as far from victory as it was 3.5 years ago. Russia isn't winning the war, but it desperately wants the world to believe it is, resorting to wild fabrications and staged spectacles to mask its failures. Picture this: the Kremlin crafts a fake battlefield triumph, flooding online with doctored videos of soldiers storming an island, while Ukraine strikes back with undeniable truth, exposing the lies in a heartbeat. It's a tale of crumbling power, where desperation breeds absurdity. What if Putin's grand illusion is crumbling faster than he admits? In the dim glow of propaganda screens, Vladimir Putin proclaims victory as inevitable, rejecting any peace that doesn't hand him total control over Ukraine's eastern lands. But reality bites like a cold wind through ravaged fields. His forces, pitted against a smaller, fierce enemy, crawl forward at a snail's pace, blood and resources oozing away like sand through fingers. As analyst Keir Giles notes, this mismatch defies logic. Why does a giant lumber so heavily? That question lingers, shocking in its simplicity. What twists await when the truth emerges? The Kremlin's economic woes deepen daily, a suffocating weight crushing dreams of glory. Territorial gains trickle in, bought with monstrous costs, lives shattered, coffers drained. If this agonizing crawl persists, conquering even the Donbass could take years, let alone broader Ukraine. The toll? Catastrophic. Bodies pile high, a metallic tang of blood mingling with the acrid smoke of battle. Can a nation survive its own illusions, or will the facade shatter? Don't be fooled by Putin's bluster. Russia falters against a weaker foe after nearly 4 years of relentless struggle. Its military underperforms, while the Ukrainian resilience grinds advances to a mere foot's crawl. Soil slips beneath boots, each step echoing futility. How does a behemoth stumble so? The sting of defeat burns, yet Ukraine stands firm. What's the unseen force twisting fate? Seizing just 0.6% of Ukraine this year, Russia bleeds 1,000 soldiers daily for scraps of land. No oblast capital claimed since March 2022, just cratered wastelands and ghost towns. Extravagant losses mount, unsustainable whispers haunting the ranks. What's their lifeline? Scarce allies like China, North Korea, and Iran propping up the collapse. Keane warns, reject the deceit. Will allies awaken before it's too late? Ukraine's drones howl overhead, shattering armored dreams, tanks abandoned like relics. Russian troops slog on foot now, in squads of 3 or 5, the earth crunching under worn soles, sweat-stinging eyes. Unarmored fragility invites slaughter for tiny gains, vital hubs out of reach. A cruel twist, no shield means endless wounds. Can flesh endure the grinder? Institute for the Study of War assessments reveal stark truths. Since July 1, Russia clawed 1420 square kilometers, 550 square miles, at a pitiful 13.5 square miles weekly, barely over 5 daily. Expectations shatter against this backdrop. Sensory overload creeps in noon, gunfires roar, ruptured earth reeking of decay. Is this the peak of absurdity, or something darker brewing? What revelation waits in the shadows? For a mechanized giant, such sluggish conquest mocks prowess. Mud clings to uniforms, fierce chill seeping through layers. Losses soar, over 1 million maimed or slain, tanks twisted to scrap, vehicles silenced, skies empty of once dominant craft. Echoes of defeat reverberate. How long until the narrative unravels completely? Current data whispers grim forecasts, years more to claim Donetsk, Luhansk, Kherson, Zaporizhia. Ukraine holds vital spots like Pokrovsk, defenses unbroken. The arc bends toward turmoil, twists piling like unmarked graves. Imagine the shift when desperation reveals its true cost. Will Putin admit the facade? The air thickens with unspoken dread. But as we've seen, Russia's propaganda machine spins tales of triumph amid its crumbling facade. What hidden cracks are now surfacing in Putin's empire? Imagine the distant rumble of artillery fading into a deceptive calm, where the stench of fear masks desperation on the recruitment fronts. Has Russia hit rock bottom with fake victories as a distraction? Russia's war machine groans under the weight of staggering monthly casualties. Leaked documents reveal an average of 35,000 soldiers lost each month from January to September of 2025. The bite of frost on the Dnieper etched into exposed skin, warning of unrelenting vulnerability. Are these numbers just whispers of the truth, buried under state lies? Desperate times call for drastic measures. Shrinking economies force tough choices. Signing bonuses dry up for new recruits. The gritty crunch of boots in frozen mud echoes as incentive programs fray. Yet, Putin leans on mass conscription with promises of protection for Russian lands from Ukrainian drone swarms. A provocative twist looms. What if this draft unleashes domestic fury, fracturing the leader's iron grip? Flashback to vodka-soaked bars in forgotten towns, the acrid smell of stale tobacco clinging to uniforms as whispers of uprising stirred like wind through barren branches. How far will Putin go to silence dissent? Analysts warn of deeper trenches ahead. The new draft law targets an estimated 2 million reservists. Could this be the stepping stone to calling in hundreds of thousands more for Ukraine's front lines? In an unexpected twist, economic quagmire tightens the noose. Funds dwindle for soldier pay and grief payments to widows. The tactile chill of bills unpaid mars dreams of glory. Mobilization stands as the sole lifeline, a bitter pill for a regime teetering on edge. Rhetorical echoes linger. If bonuses vanish, will allegiance fracture like ice under armored tracks? Keen observers dissect Russia's financial fall. The National Wealth Fund's liquidity plummeted to about $50 billion in October 2025. That's a brutal drop of over 55% from its pre-war peak of $113 billion. Inflation spikes, slashing real wages, while skyrocketing interest rates strangle businesses. The sharp tang of scarce fuel fills the air, a sensory assault on daily life. Fuel shortages rage, soaring 13 to 20% of demand tied to relentless Ukrainian drone strikes on refineries and pipelines. Gasoline fumes mingle with the metallic bite of sanctions sting. President Donald Trump's fresh blows against Russian oil giants amplify the agony. Sanctions twist like a knife, choking energy exports and battering Putin's allies. Rhetorical questions haunt the winds. Will this fuel famine ignite riots in Moscow's shadowed alleys, exposing the emperor's naked fragility? An emotional descent unfolds, from boasts of victory to the raw panic of scarcity. Yet, as Russia flails, Ukraine's resolve shines brighter, a beacon against fabricated might. But what forbidden path might Putin tread next to mask the abyss? Stay tuned, for the shadows deepen, and no tale is safe from unraveling. In our last combat tale, Russian assaults pounded the lines with tanks and troops, only to crumble under fierce Ukrainian resistance, revealing a hidden desperation in Moscow's playbook. Imagine the thrill of victory, the roar of guns echoing across fields. Where did Russia falter so spectacularly? Shocking evidence emerged. Ukrainian defenders obliterated a tank and 2 motorcycles right in the Bekrovsk hotspot, while crushing another armored beast nearby in Balahen. And the grim truth? Nearly every vehicle Russia threw into that brutal fray was reduced to smoking ruins, echoing a chilling question that haunts the battlefield: who's really winning this savage dance of power? Fast forward through the dust and debris, to grasp the thunderous import of these Ukrainian triumphs. Zoom out and feel the weight of the land itself. Bekrovsk and nearby Dobrpilia, they're the pulsing heartstrings of Ukraine's Donetsk defenses. Their fate could dictate control over this scarred earth for generations, a twist no one saw coming. Moscow's playbook isn't just about soil, it's a cold grab for lives and riches, extracting resources to fuel dark ambitions, siphoning people to bend reality to propaganda's will. Can you smell the iron scent of ambition in the air? Russia craves full control of Donetsk, claiming it as liberation for a supposed Russian-speaking throng. Though hearts on the ground beat to Ukrainian tunes, this grab would gift Putin a victory myth, a domestic boast to quell doubts, an international facade to project strength. But delve deeper. The industrial bones of Donetsk, warped yet wealthy from war's hammer, would yield economic plunder, while securing borders that mimic stolen lines, a frozen lock on chaos tailored for Russia's terms. Is this the emperor's new clothes of conquest? Pokrovsk lurks like a fortress sentinel, straddling vital highways that pulse with lifeblood supply, a railway nexus feeding the region's veins, so fortified it's a wall of steel and resolve. And yet, Russia's failures speckle the map, unable to shatter it all. What desperate gambit lies next, as shadows hint at deeper threats creeping toward Dnipro and Zaporizhia? Stay tuned, for the veil might tear, revealing truths that shake the ground itself. In the midst of a relentless war, one question looms: can a false victory truly reshape the narrative of defeat? The intensity of the conflict in Ukraine has become a stage for deception, with one side striving to mask its failures with fabricated tales of triumph. Recently, the Kremlin attempted a bold tactical maneuver. On October 22, Vladimir Saldo, the Russian-appointed head of the Kherson region, released a dramatic video portraying Russian troops conquering a strategic area known as Karantin Island. This orchestrated spectacle featured soldiers planning strategies, navigating waters, and engaging in intense firefights, complete with an epic soundtrack that heightened the tension. The boasts proclaimed a monumental achievement. Russian forces had crossed the Dnipro River, implemented clever tactics, and secured the island. Yet, beneath this facade lay a stark reality: the truth was waiting to strike. Just a day later, the Ukrainian 34th Separate Coastal Defense Brigade released counter-footage, showing their forces safely maneuvering across the very same island. The stark silence of the surroundings contradicted Russian claims of a heated conflict. Their message was clear: the enemy exists only in their imagination. As Ukrainian officials merrily debunked the Kremlin's assertions, with one even dancing in defiance, a mountain of evidence emerged to expose the lies. The Institute for the Study of War quickly confirmed suspicions, stating that the Kremlin's portrayal of a Russian offensive lacked any basis in reality. This feeble attempt to bolster morale only underscored the desperation felt within the Russian ranks. What drives this urge to invent victories? With losses mounting, over 1 million soldiers dead or injured, the logic of fabricating achievements suggests a waning grasp on the truth. Can a nation so steeped in tales of grandeur truly hope to sway Western alliances with such thinly veiled deception? The reality unfolds as Ukraine stands resolute, maintaining defenses and countering Russian advances. Now, as the battle for territorial control heats up, attention shifts to Pokrovsk, a critical gateway to the fortified regions of Donetsk. This city serves as a linchpin. Controlling it means wielding power over essential supply routes vital for sustained military operations. The stakes have risen sharply, and Russian forces, despite extensive assaults along the 600-mile front line, remain embattled. Could Pokrovsk become a decisive factor in this clash of wills? Its capture could spell doom for Ukraine if it enables further advances to cities like Dnipro and Zaporizhzhia. In a daring strategy, Russian forces aim for a siege, but Ukrainian defenses in Upper Pelia form a stronghold critical to thwarting such ambitions. This interdependence bolsters Ukraine's ability to deter Russian logistics, turning Pokrovsk into a bastion of resistance rather than a target of conquest. As we delve into the intricacies of this unfolding conflict, the question remains, will false victories evaporate under the scrutiny of daylight, or will the war for truth and territory continue to shape the future of Ukraine? The opposing sides prepare for clashes, each aware that the outcome could redefine the very essence of their struggle. The fight is far from over, and the real story, far deeper than mere fabrications, lies ahead. Imagine pushing forward through mud-soaked fields, only to realize every step costs you dearly. That's the nightmare facing any attacker here. Those overlapping fields of fire? They turn simple advances into bloodbaths of exhaustion and loss. What if losing one small spot meant the whole front crumbles? Picture this, the railway station in Pokrovsk buzzes like a lifeline. Trains rumble in, unloading troops, crates of ammo, fuel drums that smell of oil and urgency, heavy gear clanking against rails, even medical kits rushing to the wounded. All this feeds the vast Donbas front. Lose that hub, and Ukraine's defenses starve. Supply runs that zipped by rail in hours? Now they're grueling truck hauls over days. Roads pocked with craters, under constant drone buzz and artillery thunder. The air reeks of smoke and diesel. So long as Ukraine grips both Pokrovsk and Upper Pelia tight, they project power across Donetsk like an unbreakable shield. Drones slice deeper into enemy lines, they're cutting the night. Artillery booms, slicing Russian supply routes with fiery precision. Electronic warfare hums, jamming columns across the front, voices crackling into static chaos. Pokrovsk and Upper Pelia stretch Ukraine's bubble wide. They choke any Russian hold, making control a fading dream. But lose one, the other tumbles soon after. The region unravels like a pulled thread. That's why Russia bleeds troops in waves, catastrophic waves, to seize it. Ukraine digs in, teeth gritted, holding at any price. The ground trembles under their resolve. Recent whispers of Russians nearing Pokrovsk? They sting. They mock the bold talk of unbreakable Ukrainian stands. Is Ukraine cracking under the strain, desperate to hide every flaw? Yet, every nearby village counts like a battlefield chess piece. Each win forces Russians to pivot, retreat, their plans shattering like glass. It eases the crush on Ukraine's fighters, just a breath. Take the fresh liberations, Sukharivka, Kurokov Yar, and more hamlets pulled back from the brink. Ukraine pounces on Russia's stumbles. Every reclaimed patch? Land Russia bought with rivers of sweat and lives. Now it slips away. Moscow's big push fizzles, objectives dangling out of reach. But as Ukrainian forces celebrate these footholds, a shadow looms. What if the next Russian surge overwhelms them all? What if a superpower's empire crumbles not from bullets, but from the weight of its own lies? Picture soldiers vanishing into the mist of doubt, economies gasping for air amid empty promises. Russia's grand illusion shatters, exposing a regime starved for soldiers, buried in debt, and fractured by fear. One fabricated victory too many, and the world sees the emperor's threadbare cloak. How far will desperation push a fading giant before it topples? 347 characters, as Ukraine forges bold ties with allies far from the chaos, Romania teaming up to craft watchful drones for shared skies, Denmark opening doors for Ukrainian ingenuity to blend with their own, independence blooms like a resilient dawn. These partnerships whisper of strength unbound, economies intertwining without chains of aid alone. Imagine the hum of assembly lines in safe havens, the sharp scent of fresh metal under cool Baltic winds, hands steady on blueprints that promise trade, not just gifts. Ukraine sells sleek designs to NATO circles, bartering for tools of resilience in equal measure. No more begging bowls, this is self-reliance, a shield against whispers of surrender. Rhetorically, can a nation truly stand if it leans forever on others? Yet here, Ukraine rises, negotiations fortified by unyielding sustainment. Fighters endure, politics be damned, their resolve like the unbreaking river current. Flashback to those early alliance meetings in Copenhagen's crisp halls, the echo of footsteps on polished floors, the faint aroma of strong coffee mingling with sea salt from nearby harbors. A diplomat's firm handshake sealing futures amid maps glowing under soft lights. Back then, hope flickered tentative, but now it surges. But turn the gaze eastward, where shadows lengthen over Moscow's facade. Crises coil like smoke from a dying fire, manpower evaporating, coffers echoing hollow, spirits cracking under invisible strain. Unsustainable, this web ensnares the bear. Start with the front's silent thief, soldiers, or their glaring absence. In September, Putin summoned the largest autumn call-up in nearly a decade. 135,000 young men, ages 18 to 30, pulled from lives into uncertainty. This follows spring's haul of 160,000, the biggest since fall 2011. By 2026, year-round drafts loom, ditching seasons for endless pull. Desperation's mask, not power's roar. Why chase numbers when hundreds of thousands already swarm? Russia craves not fodder, but faithful hearts, ones that won't flee at dawn's first light or shatter on impact. Estimates swirl, about 70,000 troops may slip away in 2025 alone, a tenth of those dug in against Ukraine. The 41st Army? Nearly 8,000 gone, half its starting force melted into the ether. Incentives dangle like false stars. 2024 saw Moscow lads promised up to 7.1 million rubles in year one, including a 1.9 million signing lure. Far-flung posts? Monthly pay dwarfs average wages by over 2.4 times, bonuses stacking like desperate bribes. The rustle of crumpled ruble notes in weary pockets, the bitter tang of promised wealth turning to ash. Does gold bind loyalty, or just delay the inevitable fracture? Yet morale frays. Economics teeter on a knife's edge. What hidden collapse awaits when even these lures fail to stem the tide? From the depths of a crumbling military where deserters have halved the ranks up to 8,000 slipping away, a desperate gambit eerily unfolding, Russia now dangles outrageous financial carrots to lure new warriors, promising Moscow recruits a staggering first-year haul of 7.1 million rubles, complete with a juicy 1.9 million. Imagine the crushing weight of that revelation. Does a victorious nation truly bribe its way to the front lines, or is this the stench of panic rising from a once mighty empire's decay? The sharp tang of currency fills the air, crisp bills clutched in trembling hands, while the distant rumble of artillery echoes like a dying heartbeat. In Moscow, that signing bonus balloons to about $82,000 at the current rate, eerily close to 70% of Putin's public presidential earnings, a slap in the face to a leader feigning strength. Out in the remote reaches, monthly stipends soar over 2.5 times the average wage, with bonuses hitting 22 times the minimum, a tactile tease of wealth against calloused fingers hardened by mock battles. Over 50 regions scramble to inflate these payouts, a frenzied auction for flesh in the grinder that screams shortage. Without desperate voids, why such gilded traps for eager volunteers? Yet amid the allure, budget shadows loom, jagged and unforgiving. Russia's proposed 2026 spending chart falls from 13.5 trillion rubles, roughly 161 billion, to 13 trillion, around 157 billion. First real dip in war-era outlays, a chill breeze signaling retreat. Inflation compounds the bite at 8%. Down from a March spike of 10%, skewed metrics masking true economic rot, like a bandage hiding gangrene. Reinforcing doubt, Putin's push for extra 2026 taxes hints at raiding other coffers to feed the machine, a bitter pill swallowed in silence. But while fresh recruits feast on promises, veterans crumble under sharpened axes. Compensations for the maimed and bereaved dwindle, from 78 billion rubles, about 967 million, in 2025 to 58 billion, nearing 719 million. The Defenders of the Fatherland Fund shrinks more than halfway, from 34.7 billion, around 421 million, to a withered 213.9 billion, or 172 million. Picture the iron grip of betrayal. One hand feeds new blood-warm bread, the other leaves the scarred to starve in the cold, evoking tears on frostbitten cheeks. This stark duality exposes raw desperation, betraying loyal souls to clutch fleeting victories. But what explosive twist hides next as sacrifices grow? Could this fractured arithmetic unleash chaos Ukraine might seize? The air thickens with unspoken dread. What if the wounds of neglect breed the mutiny that shatters the illusion forever? On a chilling night in the heart of a war-torn land, a facade of victory comes crashing down when truth prevails over deception. Russia, desperate to mask its faltering military campaign, crafted an elaborate story of triumph only to be unmasked by undeniable evidence. As world leaders remain on edge, the question looms: how long can a nation maintain the illusion of strength while its true vulnerabilities are laid bare? Recently, on October 22, an orchestrated spectacle unfolded. Vladimir Saldo, the head of the occupied Kherson region, dazzled the internet with a video that appeared to showcase a grand Russian victory on Carrington Island. The footage was dramatic, a mixture of ground-level action and sweeping aerial shots, with heroic music underscoring the triumph of Russian troops. Claims emerged that they had crossed the treacherous Dnipro River, securing key positions and readying for further advances into Kherson city. It seemed like a script pulled straight from a war movie. But as the dust settled on this cinematic debut, Ukrainian forces swiftly countered with unassailable evidence, a video showing their troops, unhindered, marching across the same island still under their control. This shouted an undeniable truth amid the chaos. Russia's claims were not just exaggerated, they were a complete fabrication. Just the day after Saldo's grand claim, the Ukrainian 34th Separate Coastal Defense Brigade showcased their unchallenged presence with undeniable proof, exposing the Kremlin's deceit in a matter of hours. This unfolding drama not only showcased a battlefield rivalry but revealed an alarming flaw in Russia's narrative-building efforts. The Institute for the Study of War noted that Russia seeks to portray these false victories as a psychological weapon, attempting to manipulate perceptions in the West. This tactic not only disintegrates morale within its ranks but affirms the Kremlin's weakness. Countries engaged in successful campaigns do not need to create fictions to bolster their narrative. As reports circulated about the alleged victories, the truth of staggering losses loomed larger. Economists and military analysts pointed to numerous shortcomings: troop numbers dwindling, resources depleting, and an economy struggling to support the relentless grind of war. A distinct paradox emerged: while Russia invested heavily in illusions of grandeur, it simultaneously slashed veteran support funds, reflecting a disconcerting prioritization of fighting men over their well-being post-battle. Key indicators of this internal strife came to light, much to the relief of Ukraine, providing a strategic opening. Ukraine's leadership emphasized that peace was the only serious goal, while Russia clung to its territorial ambitions. When a proposed meeting between U.S. President Donald Trump and President Putin fell apart, the facade of diplomatic progress shattered, reinforcing the perception that Moscow, entangled in its ambitions, was losing the ability to negotiate from a position of strength. As the clock ticks on, both sides brace for the next moves in this brutal chess match. Will Putin reconsider his maximalist demands? Or persist down a path leading to further isolation? And can Ukraine maintain its momentum against an adversary seemingly more focused on theater than on substance? The stakes have never been higher in a conflict where the echoes of gunfire are accompanied by the cacophony of deception, and the truth remains the most potent weapon of all. In a dramatic twist of fate, Russia is scrambling to maintain the illusion of victory in its ongoing conflict, even as the tides seem to turn against it. Days ago, the Kremlin orchestrated a spectacle of supposed triumph, releasing polished footage and spurious claims that Russian forces had stormed a crucial area of Ukraine. Unfortunately for them, Ukraine was ready to reveal the truth, shattering Russia's narrative and exposing its fabrications. The saga unfolded on October 22, when the pro-Russian head of the occupied Kherson region, Vladimir Saldo, paraded an edited video online. Set to thumping music, it displayed clips of Russian troops allegedly strategizing, navigating inflatable boats, and engaging in combat. Saldo claimed they had taken control of Quarantine Island, a key location just southwest of Kherson city. He painted a vibrant picture of a monumental victory, asserting that Russian forces had crossed the river, routed Ukrainian defenses, and established a stronghold, all while preparing for an advance toward Kherson itself. This triumphant story was quickly echoed by pro-Russian military bloggers, who heralded the success of drone operators and artillery units. State media trumpet the narrative as a heroic surprise attack, complete with quotes from supposed commanders recounting how swiftly they overtook the island's vital installations. But like a gripping war movie, this narrative lacked authenticity. A mere day later, the resilience of the Ukrainian 34th Separate Coastal Defense Brigade came to light, as they released geolocated footage showing their forces moving freely across the very island that the Kremlin claimed to control. Their message was clear: the streets were quiet, the enemy non-existent. With confident assertions, they declared victory over misinformation, stating that their eyes were firmly set on Kherson City, while the enemy trembled in their wake. Even the spokesperson for Ukraine's defense forces joined the fray, humorously countering the Russian account with footage of himself dancing on Quarantine Island, an emblem of Ukrainian defiance. The enthusiastic rebuttal left little room for doubt. The real stories were being told, and they were far from what the Kremlin wanted the world to believe. As analysts sift through the chaos, it becomes evident that Russia's desperate attempts to project power are crumbling under scrutiny. With ground realities starkly contrasting its fabricated tales, the Kremlin is now fighting a two-front war, one against Ukraine and the other against the perception of its strength. The Institute for the Study of War succinctly summarized the situation, revealing that the Kremlin had resorted to cognitive warfare, crafting narratives of success in a landscape littered with loss. The truth is stark: Russia's military ambitions are stalled, with vast territories still held firmly by Ukraine. In this scenario, the bravery of Ukraine's forces stands in sharp contrast to the narrative being spun by the Kremlin. What does this mean for the future of the conflict? Can a nation stymied by its own narrative sustain its military momentum? As the flames of conflict continue to burn and truths emerge from the shadows, it's clear that the fight for perception is almost as vital as the fight for territory, and the true story is often buried beneath the surface of fabricated tales. Russia's war propaganda machine is spinning wildly, claiming battlefield triumphs that never happened. But Ukraine's not just exposing the lies, they're striking back with precision, dismantling Russia's defenses one explosive blow at a time. Imagine the Kremlin's facade cracking under the weight of its own deceit, as drones weave through the chaos, delivering devastation that rattles the invader's core. Can you believe Russia's audacity? Staging fake victories while their troops falter on the ground. In one desperate stunt, they faked a takeover of a tiny island, flooding social media with staged clips of soldiers planting flags amid rubble. But Ukraine flipped the script with real footage, proving utter silence on the front lines: no battles, no Russian boots. It's a slap in the face that screams, Russia's empire of illusion is crumbling. 318 characters. In a shocking turn of events, Ukraine's fearless scouts launched a daring aerial assault. They targeted key Russian assets, including the 96L6 radar of the S-400 Triumph anti-aircraft system, the P-18 Terek radar, the 55J-60 Niboyu radar, and the BK-16 landing craft. As usual, the main intelligence directorate shared footage of the attack. Shot from the drone's eye view, it captured those unmanned warriors zooming through hostile skies. Rhetorical question: why risk everything when the truth begs to be spoken? Feel the thrum of engines buzzing like angry wasps, the acrid bite of exhaust in the air, the jolt of impact as chaos unfolds. In the video, each drone raced at blistering speeds, evading air defense missiles with heart-pounding agility on multiple tries, before locking onto targets and unleashing hellish destruction. This was no half measure. Ukraine's GUR report held back on specifics: were the 4 targets obliterated or merely scarred? Yet, think of it, a triumph either way. Even crippled radars demand endless repairs, draining time, money, and manpower. These aren't outdated relics, they're crown jewels of Russian tech. Take the 96L6 radar, fused into the S-400's lifelines. Vital for enduring Ukrainian barrages, it spots threats at all heights, tracking ballistic missiles screaming at supersonic speeds. Covering 360 degrees, it monitors up to 100 targets from nearly 187 miles. Experts hail it as a shield against Ukraine's American-supplied high-mobility artillery rocket system, or HIMARS.
Though the radar's price stays hidden, a full S-400 setup tops $500 million.
Strip away its brain, and you've got a crippled giant, a worthless hunk of alloy blind to looming dangers.
Doesn't that make your blood boil?
Now, ponder this: Russia's hideouts exposed in one ruthless sweep.
What desperate lengths will they sink to next?
The chill of dawn mist clung to the equipment, the far-off rumble of engines fading, the gritty dust swirling after blasts.
But the storm's just brewing. Will these strikes cripple Russia's watchdogs for good?
The nail-biting tension peaks as Ukraine reveals more. Scouts strike again. Hovering in silenced skies, Ukraine's drones shared a vision of air superiority. Captured from those robotic eyes, showing each one streaking forward.
Tension coils like a spring. Has Russia even noticed the breach?
Continuing from the scouts' bold aerial raid that targeted advanced radars, the story unfolds with unleashed fury. Imagine the thrill mixed with dread as drones sped onward, dodging missiles in breathtaking dodges, before unleashing ruin on hostile strongholds.
Does this not pierce the veil of false victories?
The 96L6, an S-400 Lynchpin, boasts all-altitude vigilance, pinpointing supersonic foes up to 187 miles, circling 360 endlessly, juggling 100 threats. A worthy foe for HIMARS, part of a Hawkfilter 500 million system.
Without it, defenses crumble into costly junk. Enter the Neboyu, Russia's elite eye in the sky.
Running on ultra-high frequencies, it scans vast realms, detecting speeds and heights with precision. Picture a crystal-clear map of aerial invaders, from 373 miles afar, each unit valued at 100 million. Why such value? It spies horizons Russia's survival hinges on. Feel the weight of anticipation, the distant boom echoing failure, the metallic tang of disrupted tech.
Rhetorical query: will Russia's bluffs hold against such precise sabotage? What seismic shift waits in the shadows?
The air thick with unspoken threats,
vibrations tingling your skin, a twist brewing in the fog. Suddenly, whispers of sabotage near key hubs emerge. How deep does this humiliation run?
The cliffhanger dangles, as Russian bloggers crow false conquests on distant shores.
Ukraine's silent saboteurs position anew. Could their next move shatter the Kremlin's last illusions?
Imagine this: Russia's staged triumph on a tiny island crumbles under hard evidence, exposing desperate lies.
How low will Vladimir Putin's regime stoop to mask failure?
As the fog of deception lifts, Ukraine shatters the Kremlin's facade with undeniable proof of peace reigning where conquest was claimed. Soldiers tread unopposed, rifles slung, boots crunching over quiet soil.
No gunfire. No chaos.
Just the whisper of wind through reeds, the earthy scent of river mud beneath their feet.
Russia breeds illusions to sway the world, yet its web frays in broad daylight.
Picture Putin's puppets painting victory, flags fluttering amid rubble, troops charging with artillery thunder echoing false glory.
Governor Saldo boasts of seized banks, mined paths, and a push toward Kherson City.
Bloggers hail drone masters from the 31st VDV Brigade dominating skies, lauding artillery of the 18th Combined Arms Army pulverizing bridges. Saboteurs, they claim, stalk remnants in northeastern shadows.
But this script?
Pure fabrication, a theatrical farce with dire repercussions.
State media, like TASS, amplifies the delusion: surprised Ukrainians routed, key sites snatched. Quotes from recon platoon commanders conjure water crossings under fire, rapid footholds.
Saldo declares Quarantine Island a Russian stronghold, fighters purging foes from homes and factories.
Yet, the stage props falter. Enter Ukrainian Truth on October 23.
The 34th Separate Coastal Defense Brigade releases geolocated footage, troops striding free, flags waving defiantly.
Caption: scoff, occupiers channels hail captured Kherson, infantry conquering the right bank. Real shot of the island's neighborhood and Sadova village? Serenity. No enemy traces. They assert firm grip on Dnipro coasts, eyeing Antonivka and Karanivka, halting any river crossings. Their wins live online, not here.
Spokesman Vladislav Voloshin dances on the island, melodies clashing with rebuttal.
Experts concur: no bridgehead on Kherson's west bank, no Sadova purge, no Antonivka sabotages.
Institute for the Study of War calls it cognitive warfare, a ploy to bend Ukraine and West to surrender demands.
Caught in falsehood, TASS retracts tales. Russia resorts to fakes, desperate for perceived might.
No winning nation invents triumphs, losses breed such hysteria. This charade shifts to defenses crumbling.
Ukraine strikes Russian shields, melting illusions into ash. Can myth endure when reality burns?
From feigned conquest echoes strike, Ukraine dismantles radars guarding occupied skies near Kherson's western reaches. On October 23 through 24, Main Intelligence Directorate, GUR, unleashes aerial fury across Zaporizhia, Kherson, and Crimea.
Videos capture explosions, crisp booms shattering night silence, acrid smoke billowing, metal shards scattering like defeated hopes. Niblat and Sambuk stations, Russia's watchful eyes, obliterated in fiery precision. These shields probe airspace, whispering threats from afar.
Radars aren't assailants, but guardians, scanning horizons with unwavering vigilance. Without them, air defenses falter, blind in vast expanses.
Ukraine targets them relentlessly. As ghosts armed with drones breach Soviet-era bulwarks.
The P-18 Tetrik radar, heir to the P-12, operational since 1970, ticks reliably, eyeing terrains up to 155 miles. Its hum monitors swarms of drones or missiles, granting fleeting warnings.
Stockpiles dwindle amid relentless hunts, each hit peels back Russia's armor, exposing trembling core. Prior strikes notch up urgency.
Just days before birthing this alleged victory, Russia lauds Nibwayu radars, worth $100 million each, piercing horizons over 373 miles, spotting Ukrainian threats miles off. $100 million buys vigilance, but war devours such toys.
Ukraine dismantles them, 3 Buk M3 air defense fire systems, 21L119 Nibwa SVU radars, erased in occupied Zaporizhia. Explosions roar, soil tremors, the char of burning circuits stinging nostrils. Why? Because radars empower interceptors, lancing incoming dangers with calibrated wrath. Strip them away, and skies bleed vulnerability.
Operations like these weave a narrative far from Putin's scripts, where desperation fuels tempestuous echoes.
Yet, shadows loom. Does this ignite a storm, twisting tides toward hidden reckonings?
On an audacious October day in 2025, the battlefield buzzed with tension as the infamous Department of Active Operations unveiled a spectacular triumph. Their mission was to uncover and obliterate Russian air defense assets, an operation that exceeded all expectations. In a calculated strike, they dismantled 3 significant air defense systems, including the formidable self-propelled Buk-M3 missile launchers and the advanced Nibwa SVU radar systems, which had become crucial to Russian operations in the occupied territories of Zaporizhia and Kherson, as well as Crimea.
Imagine the thundering silence of the battlefield as these elite operatives closed in. The air was thick with anticipation, each soldier knowing the importance of their objective. With a drone's eye view, the team executed their mission flawlessly.
The destruction of these systems was not just a victory, it was a crippling blow to enemy capabilities. As the dust settled, footage from the Ukrainian Defense News Agency displayed the full scale of their success. These Nibwa and Niobe radars were designed to seek out threats from miles away, boasting detection ranges that could prevent surprise attacks. They were essential for tracking enemy aircraft and missile launches, making their loss a significant gain for Ukrainian forces. Each radar system maintained the capacity to pinpoint airborne threats with astonishing accuracy from hundreds of miles down the line, enhancing the defense framework of Russian airspace.
Yet, reports indicated that these were not just any ordinary radars, these were the more advanced Niobe SV.
Introduced to Russian forces in 2016 with capabilities to detect both aerial and ballistic threats. Their operational range extended up to 310 miles, illuminating the skies like sentinels ready to warn of impending danger. The eradication of 2 such vital radar systems struck a blow to Russian air defense, exemplifying the consequences of underestimating their adversaries.
No wonder the GUR shared exhilarating drone footage, emphasizing the precision with which they executed this critical strike. As the echoes of munitions faded into the distance, questions lingered. How many more high-value targets would fall to this relentless pursuit of victory? What did it mean for Russian forces, already battling fatigue on the front lines?
The battlefield was shifting, and each victory promised to renew the spirits of Ukraine's defenders, leaving Russian command wondering about their next move. The atmosphere was electrifying as Ukraine danced on the precipice of change. Would the Kremlin find a way to regain their lost ground, or were they grasping at straws in their desperate attempts to maintain an illusory grip on power? The narrative was unfolding, and the world watched. What began as a day filled with audacity would etch itself into the ongoing saga of conflict, beckoning foreboding questions about the future of warfare in this region. Imagine the shock as drone footage unleashes a storm of destruction on Russian defenses. Ukrainian warriors, eyes sharp in the cockpit_feed, unleash waves of kamikaze drones. Screaming through the air, their engines roar like angry beasts. Targets shatter beneath, explosions crack like thunder, debris raining down in a fiery hail. Amid the chaos, a Buk M3 medium-range surface-to-air missile launcher crumples. Why would Russia, claiming victories, let such a prized asset crumble to cheap Ukrainian ingenuity? This Buk M3, born from Soviet-era roots, pulses with modern fury. Advanced electronics hum softly, ready for mayhem. It snatches foes at dizzying speeds, up to 3,000 meters per second, nearly 9 times the sound barrier's scream. Its reach spans horizons, accuracy unyielding, shredding threats in sky, land, and sea alike. Each system's worth climbs to $45 million, a fortress of mobile might. Yet, Ukraine's clever strike maims it, not fully slaughtering, but wounding Russia's grip. Another hefty repair burden crashes down, walls closing in tighter. Only days prior, triumph echoes again. On October 20th, the main intelligence directorate celebrates carnage in Crimea. Their elite unit, from active operations, prowls with drones. Camouflaged foes lurk, but precision guides the assault. A Volty radar station shatters at Zankoy airfield, northern Crimea shrouded in secrecy. Its value swells to about $5 million per beast, wielding 3 coordinate X-band radar. Twin channels, one for unmanned aerial vehicles, the other for direction finding, sniff-out drones with optoelectronic eyes. This electronic warfare titan tracks, hunts, its pulse like a predator's breath. Designed to cloak skies from buzzing killers, yet it fails. Ukrainian waves swarm, horns of defeat wailing. Losing this gem stings beyond gold, pride fractures, confidence crumbles. Russian leaders, assured of supremacy, reel from such high-tech betrayal. Commanders' hands tremble, sweat slick, as trust evaporates in the Crimea sun's relentless glare. Is this the turning tide, where ingenuity humbles a giant's tech? Hold on, as deeper motives fester beneath the surface turns. Imagine this: what if Russia's most prized skywatchers, those cutting-edge radars guarding Crimea, suddenly vanished in flames from humble Ukrainian drones? Shocking, right? One strike, and poof, pride shattered, defenses blind. But wait, it gets worse for Moscow. As we saw before, that advanced radar wasn't just gear, it was Russia's symbol of unshakable control over the skies and seas. Commanders there, they never dreamed such a high-tech marvel would crumble under fire from basic enemy flyers. The humiliation stung deep, eroding confidence like waves crashing on a weakening shore. Now, picture the escalating nightmare. These hits keep piling up, one explosive blow after another. Ukraine's elite drone teams, often the shadowy ghosts, spearhead the deadliest raids. Their simple crafts, buzzing like angry hornets, pierce the night with precision that feels almost supernatural. Take late September, for instance. Ukraine's main Directorate of Intelligence released gripping footage and a breakdown of a daring ghost operation far inside occupied Crimea. The spotlight fell on Karsha Air Base, perched right outside Sevastopol, the bustling heart of the peninsula. In this raid, ghost pilots unleashed chaos on 4 vital Russian transport planes and 2 radar outposts. 2 Fo-26 aircraft and coastal radar stations fell next. Another triumph for the GUR ghosts in Crimea. These masters from Ukraine's Defense Ministry Special Unit kept dismantling high-value enemy assets across the seized land. The assault scorched 2 Russian and 26 transports. It also struck the surface radar post and the coastal MIZ-M10M1 radar. Those losses for Russia's occupation forces in Crimea? All tallied by GUR warriors, noted in the Armed Forces General Staff Summary for September 24, 2025. Those In-26 planes served as versatile haulers, ferrying supplies, troops, or pulling wounded from the fray.
Reports painted vivid scenes. Both machines erupted in massive blazes, hinting they were fueled and ready, likely in active service for the invaders.
Flames roared, the acrid smoke twisting into the salty sea air, a bitter scent of defeat hanging heavy.
Yet, the radars? Arguably the crown jewels. Like so many Ukraine has methodically neutralized, they fed crucial intel to Russian units in Crimea, tracking threats, spotting incoming dangers amid the endless hum of engines and the chill of coastal winds.
Without them, darkness falls over enemy lines, eyes in the sky gone forever.
But as these strikes echo louder, what hidden target will the ghosts hunt next? A fortress thought unbreakable, or something that could tip the entire balance? The tension builds.
As the stark truth emerged, exposing Moscow's fabricated tale of triumph on Karentin Island.
In that chilling defeat laid bare, Ukraine's courageous 34th Separate Coastal Defense Brigade unveiled undeniable footage. Soldiers marched undisturbed across the tranquil landmass, shattering the illusion of Russian dominance.
Silence reigned where gunfire was claimed, a deafening absence that mocked the Kremlin's boasts. Feel the eerie calm, the soft crunch of boots on riverbank earth, unscarred by battle's thunder.
How could a supposed invasion spiral into such void?
This video ignited fury, reducing Putin's narrative to ashes and spotlighting his regime's crumbling facade.
But here's the jaw-dropping twist: this embarrassment spurred Ukraine to escalate their game, targeting Russia's vulnerabilities with unyielding precision. And as Russia's propaganda crumbled under Ukraine's truthful lens,
Ukraine's relentless campaign turned to sabotaging the Kremlin's watchful eyes. Drones, dubbed ghosts, swooped silently, obliterating radar systems that once guarded skies and seas. The hum of propellers cut through night air, mingled with the distant roar of explosions, as payloads struck true. 2 radars fell, their priceless technology valued at millions, reduced to smoldering rubble.
Could such devastation be the turning point in reclaiming the heavens? Ukraine seized the momentum, with their forces dismantling these sentinels of Russian might.
No longer did Moscow loom unchallenged overhead, the tide shifted, yet one more blow awaited.
Yet in the fog of waning defenses, Crimea trembled under new assaults.
On September 30th, yet another sentinel vanished from the map.
Ukraine's Special Operations Forces struck decisively, neutralizing a radar hub linked to Russia's formidable S-400 Triumph system.
Imagine the crack of midnight air, sparks flying as drones collided with steel, the acrid sting of smoke curling skyward. This wasn't mere sabotage, it blinded Moscow's prized air defense, a system engineered to fend off Ukrainian unmanned invaders. Without its guiding eyes, the S-400 stood inert, a hollow shell.
What irony in an anti-drone beast felled by the very prey it hunted!
This symbolic victory accelerated Ukraine's systematic war on radar networks, chipping away at shields protecting occupied lands like Crimea.
With shields crumbling, a relentless storm brewed against Russian fortifications.
Each shattered radar cracked wider the Kremlin's armor, erasing pathways for Ukrainian assaults.
Nebo radars and S-400 complexes became prime targets, their destruction echoing liberation's promise.
The metallic tang of scorched metal lingered, a harbinger of Russia's retreat.
Why settle for isolated hits when a full campaign could unravel entire defenses?
This tactic unearthed opportunities, flooding Ukraine with chances to advance, while Moscow grappled with mounting piles of debris and despair. A symphony of strikes, building to a crescendo of reversal. Was this the end of Russia's aerial reign? Or merely the prelude to deeper humiliations? Imagine this, the roar of Russian sirens piercing the night sky, lives hanging by threads, military minds scrambling.
That's the moment we left you in, weren't we?
Where Ukraine's daring drone swarms punched gaping holes into Moscow's vaunted defenses, igniting a firestorm of chaos.
But as the dust settles and the adrenaline fades, what if I told you that these strikes aren't just battles won, they're economic earthquakes tearing apart an empire's fragile spine? Can you fathom the desperation of a superpower reduced to patching up billion-dollar wounds, all while pretending victory is near? Deep in the archives of this endless war, I flash back to a bitter winter night in 2023.
The air thick with the acrid stench of burning fuel, the ground trembling under distant artillery thuds, soldiers' fingers numb on cold triggers as alarms wailed, a sensory nightmare haunting every invaded village. This memory haunts the present. Russia once boasted impenetrable skies, but now, its defenses crumble like sandcastles against the tide.
Why target those Nebo radars and S-400 air defense systems?
Because they're Russia's lifelines, you see, meant to detect threats from hundreds of miles away. Ukraine's explosive drones collide directly, turning multi-million-dollar giants into smoking ruins. Priced at tens of millions apiece, one radar alone might hit 100 million, while some limp back to repair shops, others shatter beyond hope, their critical components fusing in fiery oblivion.
For Moscow, that's hundreds of millions in rubble, a cash hemorrhage they can't staunch, especially amid economic maelstrom.
Picture the Kremlin's vaults emptying faster than a flood, inflation climbing walls like ivy choking life, and now this fuel crisis biting hard. Gas shortages plaguing regions from Siberia to the border, thanks to Ukraine's calculated blows on depots.
With frontline gains trickling like a dying stream and infrastructure groaning under strain, can Russia really spare billions for patches?
Their war chest is stretched thin, every lost system a dagger to their budget's heart, leaving commanders sleepless, wondering if tomorrow brings more embarrassments or exodus. But wait, the agony deepens. Each down radar erodes faith in the technology itself.
How can skyward sentinels, costing fortunes and promising omniscience, fail so spectacularly against cheap FFPV drones?
They should spot incoming doom with ease, defenses springing to life, missiles blazing before danger creeps close. Yet Ukraine proves it time and again, swarming defenses with fleets that overwhelm, exposing Russia's chaotic web.
Is this the sound of a giant's pride shattering, or just the beginning of a cascade that swallows them whole? Hold on, who will strike next, and what twisted turn awaits in the fog of war?
In a shocking turn of events, Russia finds itself fabricating victories in a desperate bid to present a facade of strength amid a faltering war effort. Just days ago, the Kremlin staged a supposed triumph, broadcasting dubious footage and issuing grandiose claims about its forces conquering a crucial Ukrainian location. But as always, the truth is a hard pill to swallow. On October 22, the head of the occupied Kherson region, Vladimir Seldo, took to social media to unveil a dramatic video purportedly showcasing Russian troops storming Karentin Island in the Dnipro River. With a theatrical musical score amplifying the tension, the footage presented scenes of soldiers maneuvering in inflatable boats, wading through murky waters, and ostensibly engaging in intense firefights. Seldo declared this operation a monumental victory, touting it as a strategic breakthrough on the cusp of even greater advances into Kherson city itself. However, beneath the surface of this manufactured glory lay a monumental flaw. Ukraine had its own revelations, swiftly dismantling the Kremlin's narrative just a day later. The 34th Separate Coastal Defense Brigade released a geolocated video, capturing its troops moving freely across the island. The reality starkly contradicted Seldo's claims. The Ukrainians asserted there was no battle taking place, only serene silence amidst the chaos of propaganda.
As the brigade proudly affirmed their control over the Dnipro coastline, their evidence served as a loud rebuttal to the Kremlin's orchestrated deception. The air thickened with tension as Ukrainian spokesmen publicly celebrated their dominion, mocking Russia's grandiosity.
With the weight of the exposed lies heavy on the Kremlin, state news outlets scrambled to retract their enthusiastic reports. One could almost feel the quickened heartbeat of officials frantically trying to save face, knowing that the charade was crumbling. The Institute for the Study of War noted that this desperate ploy against Ukraine symbolizes a larger strategy to warp perceptions of success in a conflict where Russia's tangible gains are scant. As Russian military bloggers heatedly praised their armed forces, every failure emphasized their vulnerability. This self-deception only showcases the lengths to which the Kremlin will go, risking further embarrassment, all in an effort to quell its populace's doubts.
What happens when a country resorts to fabricating victory?
When reality does not align with the world they're trying to create, Russia not only weakens its own position but also deepens the doubts of its people. With each shattered rumor and every exposed lie, the ground continues to shift beneath them.
The evidence mounts.
Russia, amidst its theatrical displays of grandeur, is edging closer to dispelling its own myth of invincibility, revealing that even the most powerful propagandists can fall short against truth laid bare.
Will their fabrications hold in the face of reality? The war is far from over, and the real enemy may just be the narrative they've woven themselves into.
In a world where war narratives are spun daily, the truth can become the first casualty. Recent developments on the front lines reveal just how desperate one nation has become in its quest to appear victorious. Despite the harsh realities on the ground, the Kremlin is fighting an uphill battle to convince both its citizens and the world that it is winning.
Imagine the scene. On October 22, the conflict escalated as Vladimir Saldo, the head of Russians in the occupied Kherson region, unleashed a barrage of dramatic videos online. Backed by thrilling music, these clips showcased Russian troops engaging in tactical maneuvers.
They paddled inflatable boats across waterways and engaged in simulated gunfights.
The grand claim?
Russian forces had commandeered Quarantine Island, a strategic outpost in the Dnipro River. Victory was claimed loudly and celebrated across various media outlets.
But a twist awaited just around the corner.
Less than 24 hours later, the truth would emerge like a daybreak, shattering the darkness.
The 34th Separate Coastal Defense Brigade of Ukraine shattered the Kremlin's fabricated narrative with their own footage.
Their video showcased Ukrainian troops confidently patrolling the island, denying any Russian presence.
Silence reigns here, they declared.
Images of calm serenity replaced the chaos of the Russian claims, and their message was clear: the enemy's grasp on the area was only a mirage.
With Ukraine's evidence now surfacing, the Kremlin's orchestrated tale began to crumble.
The Institute for the Study of War, ISW, delved deeper, exposing the absurdity of Russia's claims. A game of cognitive warfare was at play, an attempt to spin a narrative of might and progression while the reality told a far different story. Those Western officials watching were presented with elaborate tales of combat achievements, all phantoms now, as evidence mounted against Russia's assertions. As the dust settled, a critical question loomed: how could a country allegedly winning a war be forced to fabricate victories so brazenly? A nation confident of its strength and strategy shouldn't need to stage such elaborate tales. This stark contrast raised eyebrows and skepticism about Russia's future ambitions, especially in Crimea, a long-standing target for Ukraine's forces. In the days following, major discussions emerged between Ukraine and its allies, as recent military support and strategies were put on the table. French President Emmanuel Macron unveiled a new military aid package aimed explicitly at bolstering Ukraine's defenses. This delivery included critical enhancements to air defense systems, a crucial response to the ongoing threats faced from the skies. With rumors of Russia's dwindling radar and defense capabilities circulating, the question arose: could Ukraine finally leverage this weakness to turn the tide of war in its favor? As discussions intensified, the sense of urgency grew palpable. The Coalition of Supportive Nations, a group formed to back Ukraine, came together to coordinate efforts and resources.
Among their deliberations was Ukraine's plea for long-range missiles to neutralize Russian assets and infrastructure. Ultimately,
the striking revelations from the battlefield underscored a larger truth: in war, narratives matter, but so does reality.
For Ukraine, the path to reclaiming lost territories like Crimea may soon be within reach. But what unforeseen surprises might await the combatants as their strategies unfold in this ever-complex theater of war?
In a gripping tale of wartime deception, Russia's attempts to project power have taken a desperate turn. On October 22, the head of the occupied Kherson region, Vladimir Saldo, released a sensational video claiming a significant Russian victory on an island in the Dnipro River.
Dramatic music swelled as the footage showcased Russian troops allegedly executing strategic maneuvers, boarding inflatable boats, and engaging in fierce firefights. Saldo painted a picture of triumph, asserting that Russian forces had successfully crossed the river, established a foothold, and were preparing to invade further into Kherson city. But almost immediately, this grand narrative began to unravel.
Days later, the courageous Ukrainian 34th Separate Coastal Defense Brigade stepped forward, armed with indisputable counter-evidence. They shared their own video, showing their troops marching freely on the very island Saldo claimed to control, complete silence surrounding them. The forested area echoed only with the sounds of peace, shattering the fabricated Russian triumph. Where is the Russian victory? They boldly questioned.
The truth? It was nowhere to be found.
As the Ukrainian forces began to uncover the reality behind Russia's hollow claims, the situation spiraled into chaos for the Kremlin.
State media, faced with undeniable evidence of their falsehoods, quickly retracted their reports, desperately attempting to save face.
Analysis from the Institute for the Study of War, ISW, concluded that Russia's deceptive practices were a sign of desperation. A cognitive warfare strategy to convince both Ukraine and the Western world of an impending Russian victory. How low could they stoop? In a world where truth often becomes a casualty, this conflict exemplified the lengths to which nations will go to control the narrative. With the essence of victory slipping further away, Russia's fabricated tales only painted them in a more embarrassing light. Their attempts to assert dominance through propaganda offered them nothing but humiliation. This scenario not only showcased the morale of Ukraine but also highlighted the growing cracks within the mighty Russian facade. As the battle unfolds, one can only wonder, how many more illusions will Russia craft in its attempt to grasp at power? In the shadows of a crumbling empire, Russia spins desperate tales of triumph to mask its defeats in Ukraine. But a single video shatters the illusion, exposing lies that humiliate the Kremlin's elite. What happens when a nation's propaganda crumbles under the weight of truth? 312 characters, feel the chill of October air, heavy with the scent of gunfire and damp earth. Remember that fateful invasion in February 2022, boots crunching on snowy fields, the roar of tanks echoing like thunder in the night, a tactile grip on radios buzzing with false hopes. Russia isn't winning the war, but it yearns for the world to believe otherwise, clutching at increasingly frantic deceptions. Only days ago, the Kremlin staged a grandiose battlefield farce, unleashing doctored clips and brazen assertions of Russian soldiers conquering a vital Ukrainian stronghold. Yet, horror struck their narrative. What if their foe held irrefutable proof? Ukraine unveiled footage that pierced the veil, debunking Putin's charade in a heartbeat. The humiliation burned through state media, turning Russian boasts into ash. Imagine the Kremlin's architects, their faces flushing with rage, as the world laughed at their absurdity. How low will they stoop to project dominance? 425 characters, pictures of Russian mounted troops splashed across screens, backed by a swelling orchestral score. One clip captured soldiers plotting strategies amid swirling river fog, their voices low murmurs blending with boat engine hums. Another showed them gliding on inflatable rafts, water lapping against hulls, the sharp crack of gunfire rattling nerves. A final scene, a trooper hoisting a flag over desolate rubble, wind whipping fabric against his sweat-slicked hands. Vladimir Saldo, Putin's puppet in occupied Kherson, hailed this as conquest of Khartitin Island, that speck in the Dnipro River southwest of Kherson City. He spun yarns of recon and paratroopers breaching defenses, repelling counterstrikes, establishing mines, logistics, that the island was a springboard for storming the city itself. Echoes came from bloggers praising 31st VDV drone wizards seizing skies, 18th Army gunners hammering targets and bridges. More claims swirled, saboteurs stalking northeast remnants. State outlets like TASS parroted tales of surprise assaults seizing sites, a platoon commander's quote dripping with invented drama. The mission challenged U.S. enemy caught unaware, we seized key points swiftly. Saldo beamed, Khartitin is a battle zone under Russian Dnipro Group command, rooting out hidden foes in buildings. He hinted at its role in liberating Kherson. It reeked of Hollywood, forces surging, foes vanquished, control asserted. But reality whispered differently, and Ukraine's evidence roared. Freund, their disguise unraveled at the edge of the abyss. Who forged this video's dark magic, and will Moscow's web entangle the creators in darkness? 512 characters, Ukrainian truths collided with Russian fiction the next day, October 23. Their 34th Separate Coastal Defense Brigade posted geolocated video, troops strolling Khartitin unhindered, no firefights, no occupation, just serene silence enveloping regions around Kherson City. Sense of river breeze carried no cordite, no foe screams. Their caption mocked, in occupier channels, Kherson's fallen. Russian infantry marches the right bank. But real film from the island's micro-district and Sadova village shows calm, no enemy. We hold firm, eyes on Dnipro coasts, Antonivka, Sadova, Kherson. Foes can't cross or linger, their nets exist only online. Spokesman Vladislav Voloshin danced on site, joyfully singing denial. Analysts like Institute for the Study of War, or ISW, confirmed, Russia's story-crafted fiction, no bridgehead west of Kherson, no Sadova ousts, no Antonivka strikes. Caught fabricating hero tales, state media yanked articles. ISW probed motives, cognitive war to paint sabotage as offensive prelude, convincing West and Ukrainian submissions inevitable, allies to halt aid. It clashed with concessions, Russia escalates lies. Lessons thud, desperation signals weakness, no victor needs fictions. Recall that invasion dawn, frost-biting cheeks, Engine's growl fading into bloody stalemates. Today, they invent triumphs on screens. Even for Putin, this propagandist, staging an island grab hits nadir. Twist, abyss beckons as Ukraine's unyielding stand twists Moscow's fates. What unforgivable revelation awaits next, ripping their empire's seams apart? 614 characters, fringes of defeat rattle Russia's core as its war machine sputters against Ukraine's resolve. From staged victories to shattered myths, the journey underscores a regime clinging to shadows. In 4 years, minimal gains against catastrophic tolls, over 1 million casualties, tanks ravaged. Aircraft fallen, paint a grim canvas. Experts foresee years more for full conquest of Donetsk, Luhansk, Kherson, Zaporizhia. But Ukraine digs in, defenses unyielding. Forgotten are invasion dreams, now, fabrications fuel delusion. Heart sinks at the human cost, echoes of lost voices haunting Dnipro winds. Smell of charred earth lingers, touch of slime-slicked gear a reminder. Rhetorical lash, will Russia's desperation engulf its soul, or will truth's light expose every twist? The facade crumbles under unexpected turns, Ukraine's iron vice clamps tighter, Moscow's boasts fading into oblivion. As alliances strengthen, whispers of escalation stir. Feel the pulse of resistance, cold determination coursing. Lies erode from within, catastrophe brews for the deceivers. 371 characters. In the heart of an ongoing conflict, a dramatic twist has unraveled, revealing a landscape rife with deception. Russia, desperate to paint a picture of victory, orchestrated a grand facade by releasing a captivating video claiming triumph on a key Ukrainian island. But as the curtain lifted, the truth exposed itself in an unexpected showdown. On October 22, the Russian-installed leader for the occupied Kherson region, Vladimir Seldo, posted an edited video depicting Russian forces supposedly overcoming Ukrainian defenses. The music surged, amplifying the spectacle as troops appeared to hold tactical meetings, launch attacks from boats, and navigate through treacherous waters. According to Seldo, this was all taking place on Karentin Island, a strategic point in the Dnipro River. He boldly asserted that Russian troops had crossed the river, outmaneuvering Ukrainian counterattacks, and prepared to secure a lasting presence on the island, fueling hopes for an advance toward Kherson city. Russian military bloggers rushed to echo Seldo's claims, celebrating the victories of drone operators and artillery units while painting a picture of unwavering control over the region. However, just 1 day later, the Ukrainian 34th Separate Coastal Defense Brigade shattered this illusion. They released their own footage showing their forces confidently traversing the same island, contradicting Russian assertions. The silence of the area stood in stark contrast to the chaos depicted in Kremlin narratives, proving that the supposed Russian victory was a mere myth. Vladislav Voloshin, a spokesman for Ukraine's defense forces, added a light-hearted touch by humorously debunking the Russian claims in a video filmed on the very island that was allegedly under siege. His spirited demeanor highlighted the absurdity of the situation as Ukrainian troops showcased their presence, firmly maintaining control while Russian narratives crumbled. The Institute for the Study of War quickly analyzed the unfolding events, uncovering the Kremlin's strategy to fabricate triumph amidst despair. With no real progress on the battlefield and significant losses, over 1 million troops and countless vehicles, Russia's attempts at misinformation appeared not just desperate, but laughable. As the truth unfolded, one question lingered: how long can a facade last in the face of undeniable evidence? The essence of the conflict revealed not just the stakes of war but the lengths one side would go to maintain an illusion of strength. The urgency for validation escalated, leaving one to wonder, could these fabrications backfire on Russia in the end? With the tide turning and the cameras rolling, the world watched, captivated by a narrative of resilience rebuffed by the farcical attempts at storytelling from the Kremlin. As discoveries continued to emerge, the essential question resonated: can an empire built on lies withstand the confrontations with emerging truths? With both sides poised for action, only time would tell who would stand victoriously when the dust settled. In a world shadowed by conflict, the struggle for power unfolds in a shocking tale of deception and dramatic twists. The narrative begins with a bold facade, the Kremlin's desperate attempt to spin a narrative of victory in its ongoing war. On October 22, Vladimir Saldo, the Russian-installed governor of the occupied region, shared videos claiming a significant Russian triumph on Karantin Island, situated in the Dnipro River. The footage, set to stirring music, showed Russian troops seemingly planning maneuvers and engaging in combat. According to Saldo, Russian forces had successfully crossed the river, secured territory, and were preparing to dominate the area. But something was off. Only a day later, Ukrainian forces released their own video proving Saldo's claims were nothing more than elaborate fiction. The 34th Separate Coastal Defense Brigade showcased their troops moving freely on the island, completely contradicting the Kremlin's narrative. Their message was clear: silence reigned instead of the chaos depicted in Russian reports. It became evident that the supposed Russian victory was a mere illusion, fabricated to maintain a faltering facade of strength. The Ukrainian footage revealed the stark contrast between reality and propaganda. Russia's claims were laid bare as lies, leading to a resounding humiliation for Saldo and the Russian military. Ukrainian troops confidently asserted control, while the Kremlin scrambled to retract tales of conquest, quickly sensing the narrative was slipping from their grasp. What had begun as a calculated deception turned disastrous, showcasing Russia's desperate need to project power in the face of mounting evidence of its failures. As analysts began to dissect the motivations behind Moscow's actions, it became clear that the Kremlin was engaging in a psychological battle, seeking to convince not only its citizens but also the wider world of an impending Russian triumph. They aimed to manipulate perception, hoping to sway allies' support for Ukraine and create a narrative of inevitable victory. Yet, desperation painted their actions in a troubling light. A nation truly winning a war would possess ample genuine stories of success, not resort to wild fabrications of minor victories. The irony of this manipulation was unbearable. While they staged victories on the internet, real losses mounted on the battlefield, with staggering numbers of troops and equipment lost. The arrival of the Mirage 2005 jet fighters from France added another layer to this complex story, as Ukraine secured more sophisticated weaponry to bolster its defenses. As these jets began operations, the narrative shifted dramatically once again. The moment of reckoning loomed larger, leaving observers questioning, with lies crumbling and new weapons arriving, would the tide of battle turn irreversibly? Keep watching, as the story unfolds. Unbeknownst to many, the next chapters will reveal whether the true strength lies in deception or resilience in the face of overwhelming challenges. On a chilly autumn day, deep within the heart of conflict, a tale of deception was about to unfold. Imagine a country frantically trying to project strength, not through real victories but through sheer desperation. This is the story of the Kremlin's recent attempts at staging a battlefield triumph, an effort so clumsy, it could only be classified as a dramatic farce. Just days ago, in an orchestrated display, Russian authorities released flamboyant footage showcasing their troops allegedly invading a crucial part of Ukrainian territory. Headlines screamed about an indomitable Russian victory. Yet as the echoes of triumphant music filled the air, a chilling reality loomed. Ukraine was ready to reveal the truth. With a quiet but solid assurance, they had their own footage that would dismantle the tightly knitted fabric of lies spun by the Russian state. The charade began on October 22, when Vladimir Saldo, the Russian-installed figure in the occupied Kherson region, posted video clips online that drip with drama: soldiers preparing for combat, maneuvering through murky waters, and a flag hoisted triumphantly over ruins. Saldo depicted this as a monumental Russian success on the fictional Karantin Island, blissfully unaware that the truth was lurking just beneath the surface. Did he think no one would check? Various military bloggers echoed these claims, lauding Russian forces for achieving supposed air superiority. They celebrated the drone operators and artillery units, painting a heroic picture of Russian might. Meanwhile, state news agencies spread the narrative like wildfire, quoting commanders about how unexpected their victory had been. Did they really believe they could fool the world with such juvenile tactics? However, as the dust settled, the Ukrainian brigade struck back with irrefutable evidence, showcasing their unhindered movements across the very island Russia claimed to have conquered. With a video capturing their freedom, they dismantled the Kremlin's narrative piece by piece. Silence reigned on Karantin Island, but the Russians were the only ones boasting victories on the internet, where the real fight did not exist.
Were these illusions enough to sway the perceptions of the world? Ukrainian spokesman Vladislav Voloshin jovially danced in yet another video that surfaced, mocking the Russian claims amid laughter in sheer disbelief. The evidence tilted ever more in favor of Ukraine, and as analysts dissected the propaganda, they concluded that the Kremlin was grappling with a frail reality. Why was Russia so intent on fabricating victories while its soldiers faced monumental losses? Amidst those calculations, it became clear the Kremlin's outlandish claims were not just snippets of pride but desperate attempts to mask a faltering war effort. Put with a backdrop of fallen soldiers and lost machinery, the fabricated narratives revealed a deeper story of a nation in decline, scrambling to uphold an image of strength that had long crumbled. It's astonishing how these efforts masked utter stagnation on the battlefield. Russia had long sought to capture various regions but found itself ensnared in its web of lies, unable to secure even a fraction of its ambitious plans. They wanted the world to believe in their mighty war machine, yet the ground reality was starkly different, an intricate tragedy disguised as triumph. As the final act unfolded, it became evident that the true victor in this saga was not who advanced but who dared to reveal the truth, unmasking a narrative drenched in fallacy. The desperation echoed through the air, a reminder that in war, perception can be as powerful as reality. But as the evidence gathered, one question lingered: how long could these lies persist before they imploded under their weight? Did Russia really reclaim a crucial island, marching to victory with flags waving? Shocking footage flooded the screen, but Ukraine had the truth ready. Hear the crack of gunfire, feel the mud under boots, smell the damp river air, everything crumbled fast. Russia isn't winning, but it wants the world to believe it is. Desperate moves are piling up. Just days ago, the Kremlin staged a massive battlefield triumph. They released doctored clips and spread false stories. Russian troops supposedly invaded a vital Ukrainian spot, Karentin Island in the Dnieper River, southwest of Kherson City. It kicked off on October 22. Vladimir Seldo, the Russian-installed Kherson governor, posted a video online. Dramatic music blared in the background. Clips showed troops on land, in water, and in the skies. Soldiers planned tactics, rowed inflatable boats, waded through shallow waters, and battled on the ground. A trooper raised a flag amid rubble. Seldo claimed this meant a huge win. He said Russian recon and airborne teams crossed the river, repelled Ukrainian counterattacks, secured a foothold. They were mining paths and setting up logistics for a stay, aiming for a push toward Kherson City. Military bloggers echoed the praise. They hailed drone operators from the 31st VDV Brigade for air control. Artillery from the 18th Combined Arms Army struck targets on the island and bridges. Saboteurs were hunting remaining Ukrainians in the northeast. State news like TAS ran reports. They quoted a recon platoon commander: the mission was challenging. Crossing under fire, establishing a foothold. The enemy didn't expect an attack here. We responded quickly. Controlled key facilities. Seldo bragged, Karentin Island is a combat zone under Russian control. We're identifying and eliminating targets. The footage screamed victory, like a war film. Troops surging, wiping out foes, claiming land. But reality? It was all a farce. Ukraine's proof came crashing in, exposing the lies. What desperate acts will Russia try next? Will the world finally see through the fog? A day later, on October 23, Ukraine struck back hard. The 34th Separate Coastal Defense Brigade shared geolocated video. Their soldiers marched freely across the island, no firefights, no Russian presence. Caption read, in occupier channels, Kherson is captured. Russian infantry walks the right bank. But real footage shows silence in the micro-district, Sadova village. No opponent. We control the Dnieper coast firmly. Antonivka, Sadova, Kherson under watch. Enemy approaches? Immediate stops. No chance of crossing or milling. Fake wins online only. A spokesperson for the Defense Forces of the South, Vladislav Voloshin, danced and sang on the island, mocking the Russian tale. Video evidence was undeniable. Trusted sources like ISW analyzed it. They said no bridgehead on the West Bank.
No pushing out Ukrainians from Sadova or sabotage near Antonivka.
Just cognitive warfare to fake an offensive. Russian media backpedaled quickly. TASS pulled the capture article.
Russia might aim to convince the West victory is near, pressuring Ukraine to give up territories, forcing allies to halt support.
No concessions in southern Ukraine, ISW noted. Caught in the act, humiliation burned. Feel the sting of exposure, hear the laughter in Ukrainians' voices, smell the fear in Kremlin's rank air. Why invent tales when real win should abound? Russia's position? Shockingly weak. Who could have foreseen this, 4 years in? Propaganda hits new lows. But the charade didn't end there. Who stands ready with truth? Will Russia twist deeper into isolation? 3 harsh lessons emerge. First, clear desperation screams.
Winners share real victories, not staged dramas.
Russia concocts wild stories to mask weakness.
Early on, analysts expected resistance, but not this: a government fabricating tiny island conquests.
Mistrust and spin are Putin's tools, yet faking videos? Ridiculous. Second, Kremlin burns effort to sway the West, like the United States and EU. Nurture false narratives of unstoppable might. But truth shows slow gains, if any, most areas held by Ukraine, like Pokrovsk and Donetsk.
Losses mount, over 1 million soldiers dead or wounded, tanks obliterated, planes gone, ships sunk, radars down, defenses crumbled.
Experts say full control of Netsk, Luhansk, Kherson, Zaporizhia could take more years. Conquest? Impossible. Third, allies like France stand firm.
Amid home turmoil, a fresh government collapses in under a day, third in 12 months.
Moody's dings credit outlook to negative, bracing for fragmentation. Yet France expands military aid for Ukraine. Why now, when debt and deficits loom?
Earlier 2022, criticized for lagging at 11th in aid, $230 million, behind US, UK, Poland, even Germany.
But France surged ahead. By September 2025,
$10 billion total aid, $6.86 billion on weapons, transfers, training, $3.14 billion financial, including $2.67 billion to EU peace facility. By late 2023, delivered 30 Caesar self-propelled guns, 6 TRF-1 howitzers, for MLRS, 10 120mm mortars.
Ammo, 30,000 rounds for howitzers. Anti-tank, 1,002 Milan guided missiles, 84 grenades.
Also, 38 AMX-10 RC tanks, 9,000 main gun rounds, 250 armored vehicles, 120 off-road ones, 6 trucks. Drones, 160 reconnaissance, 10 detectors.
30 Zodiac Futura inflatable boats.
And small arms, 55 7.62mm machine guns, 560 12.7mm guns, 1,000 FAMAS rifles, 20 sniper rifles. Ammo, 1.7 million 12.7mm rounds, 1.1 million small arms including 9mm and 5.56mm. Feel the weight of commitment, hear Macron's resolve amid domestic storms. Smell gunpowder in supplies, taste the grit of persistence. Why does Russia spin lies while France arms reality? In this war of truths, who will break first? Will Russia's fictions unravel completely, leaving bare the emperor's worn threads? The tide shifts. Can Ukraine's unflinching stand force the Kremlin's hand? Imagine the hesitation in the air, the rumble of distant artillery as brave defenders brace for another onslaught. In our last installment, we explored Ukraine's arsenal gains by year's end: will tanks loaded with 9,000 rounds for the main gun, 250 armored vehicles, 120 off-road vehicles, 6 trucks, 160 reconnaissance drones, 10 drone detection devices, and 30 Zodiac Futura inflatable boats. Allies poured in firepower, setting the stage for relentless resistance. What if a nation's promise of support crumbled under pressure? Picture this shocking revelation: France, once boasting unbreakable ties, delivered a mountain of aid to Ukraine, but was it enough to tip the scales against Russia's iron grip? In fog-shrouded fields, where the stench of gunfire lingers, French stockpiles flooded in 55 7.62mm machine guns, heaving with their metallic tang under clenched fists. 560 12.7mm guns roared promises of devastation, paired with 1,000 FAMAS rifles that felt smooth yet deadly to the touch.
20 sniper rifles whispered precision through windy scopes.
Ammunition cascaded like relentless rain, 1.7 million rounds for the 12.7 mm, explosives cracking open enemy lines. Another 1.1 million bullets, blending 9 mm and 5.56 calibers, clattered into magazines with a satisfying snap. 10,500 grenades bounced with lethal thud, while 3,600 anti-tank mines buried secrets beneath soil, poised to erupt in a symphony of destruction. Petrol, fresh and pungent, fueled engines, bulletproof vests hugged torsos like a second skin, helmets clinked against unsteady heads. First aid kits bore the coppery hint of bloodied battles, communications gear buzzing with urgent voices, navigation tools guiding through smoke-filled chaos. France trained 10,000 Ukrainian troops in sun-dappled French fields and Polish plains, forging a brigade on French devices, sweat-drenched sessions building unbreakable bonds. Why would France stand by a bilateral pledge, not a full NATO pact, signed on February 16, 2024? It vowed military might, political steel, financial reservoirs, humanitarian aid, deterrence against Russian shadow, support for EU paths and NATO links. Imagine the twist: cooperation spans strategic whispers, cyber shields safeguarding wires, critical defenses like air barriers humming overhead, intelligence nets trapping deceit, counterintelligence thwarting spies. Defense industries blended gears, standardizing alloys for seamless war machines. This outpouring proves France walks the talk, firepower matching words in a world doubting resolve. But as Ukraine claws back soil, grain by bitter grain, will these gifts birth more humiliations for the aggressor? Can a fabricated island conquest hide forever behind staged flags? Stay tuned for the unraveling, when desperation meets undeniable truths. Pause for breath. What hidden motives lurk behind Kremlin's staged triumphs? As smoke clears and echoes fade, a deeper shift emerges. What if a single video could shatter an empire's biggest lie? Imagine the Kremlin, desperate for glory, staging a fake invasion on a tiny island, dramatic music swelling, flags waving amid rubble. But Ukraine drops truth bombs that leave Russia. Did Russia's military really storm Kherson Island in a heroic victory, or was it just another desperate lie to mask their crumbling empire? Remember that crisp October morning back in 2022. The air hung heavy with fog over the Dnieper River, the chill biting your skin like icy needles. You could almost hear the distant rumble of engines, feel the cold mud squishing under boots as troops imagined they had crossed to glory. But that was no reality, it was a fabricated dream Putin peddled to his people. Russia isn't winning this war. They're scrambling, fabricating triumphs to maintain the facade. Just days ago, the Kremlin staged a battlefield win to deceive the world. They released manipulated footage and claims of Russian troops seizing Kherson Island, a tiny patch south of Kherson City. Vladimir Saldo, the Russian-installed governor, unleashed the video with dramatic music. It showed soldiers plotting tactics on the ground, gliding in inflatable boats through water, clashing in firefights. A soldier planted a flag amid rubble. Saldo boasted grandly. Reconnaissance units and airborne troops crossed the river. They fended off counterattacks, secured a foothold, mined routes, and set up logistics for a northern push into Kherson City. Military bloggers cheered the 31st VDV Brigade's drones dominating the skies. The 18th Combined Arms Army's artillery smashed Ukrainian targets on islands and bridges. Saboteurs hunted remaining foes in the northeast. Russia's state media, like TASS, echoed the tale. Ukrainian forces were stunned. Russian saboteurs landed under fire, seizing key spots. A platoon commander spoke of swift control. Saldo claimed the island as a Russian-controlled combat zone, with troops neutralizing threats in buildings. Commanders plotted its role in liberating Kherson. It sounded like a blockbuster movie, Russian juggernauts sweeping in victorious. But it was fiction. Ukraine shattered the myth the next day. On October 23, the 34th Separate Coastal Defense Brigade posted a geolocated video. Their soldiers strolled freely across the island, no firefights, no Russian presence. The area around Kherson City was eerily silent, peaceful. No enemy in sight.
The micro-districts of the island and Sadova village hummed with normalcy. The brigade guarded the Dnieper coastline firmly. Antonivka, Sadova, and Kherson remained under watch. Any Russian river approach was stopped cold. Their victories existed only online. Spokesman Vladislav Voloshin filmed himself dancing on the island, celebrating the debunk. Trusted analysts confirmed it. The Institute for the Study of War called it a cognitive warfare stunt to fake a bridgehead on Kherson's west bank. No real advances occurred. Claims of expelling Ukrainians from Sadova or sabotaging Antonivka? Unproven. Caught lying, Russian media retracted stories. Why fabricate this nonsense? 3 lessons emerge from Russia's reckless ploy. Fiction turned to fact in an instant, but what deeper humiliation awaits if Ukraine keeps pushing? In the last segment, Russia staged a fake victory on Kherson Island, liberating manipulated footage of heroic battles that never happened. Ukrainians debunked it with real videos from the silent Secure Island, mocking Russia's desperation and lies. How far will Putin go to peddle victory when his forces are crumbling beneath the weight of defeat? This scandal screams Russia's growing desperation. A winning nation shares genuine triumphs, not forged fantasies. Resorting to a staged video of a speck of land? That's rock bottom. Flashback to early 2024 predictions of quick Russian dominance. Analysts foresaw resistance, but not this farce. Nearly 4 years later, the Kremlin concocts absurd tales to project strength. The cold sweat of fear must cling to them, the acrid taste of failure bubbling up. Mistruths are Putin's arsenal, yet staging a tiny island takeover? New low. Second lesson, convince the West America, Europe of inevitable victory. Nurture the myth of troops storming forward, defenses shattering. Reality? Russia creeps at snail's pace. Key areas like Pokrovsk and Donetsk? Still Ukrainian. Losses stagger, over 1 million dead or wounded, thousands of tanks, aircraft, and gear destroyed. Experts say full control of Donetsk, Luhansk, Kherson, or Zaporizhia could take years. Is this the guise of a superpower? Now, roll back the tape, literally. That task quote from the fake commander, our reconnaissance revealed the enemy unprepared. We responded quickly, seizing control. Hollow words echoing empty battles. Rhetorical twist, if they flounder on a small isle, what chance on grand fronts? The stench of burnt bridges haunts them. Will Russia's house of cards collapse next? Hope flickers amid deceit, but can Ukraine turn the tide for good, or will more twists unravel everything? From the previous account, Russia's island deception exposed a facade of triumph crumbled by Ukrainian evidence, highlighting their frantic efforts and monumental losses in a war slipping away. Is attrition truly cutting both ways, or is Ukraine forging an unstoppable reversal that could crush Moscow's dreams? Ukraine fights smarter, turning the tables. Every reclaimed mile recalibrates future negotiations. If talks freeze lines under Trump, Ukraine craves them far east. Deeper strategy, showcase enduring military might. They guard territory and claw it back. Signal to Trump and allies, a freeze is needless. Momentum stalls pressure on Ukraine to surrender land. Zelensky observed closely. Putin pivoted to diplomacy, calling Trump at rumblings of U.S. aid boost. Talks delayed when support faltered. That fuels strategy. Sustain pressure for leverage. Prevent consolidation. Deny rebuild space. Erode Russian capabilities. Exact costs rendering war unsustainable for Kremlin. Politics shift fast. Prove effective use of tools for support. Show reversal of gains eases securing funds, ammo, weapons for deeper pushes. Villages near Kravs escape headlines like big offensives. Yet they herald evolution in warfare. Russia bet on fading Western aid, Ukrainian fracture. Time favored them. But attrition wounds both unpredictably. Each war month builds Ukrainian factories, worsens Russia's economy under sanctions, piles casualties past repair. If Moscow holds captured villages after huge pains, can they conquer Donetsk or entire Ukraine? The cold dread of that question lingers. Smell the fermenting desperation.
Touch the frayed edges of an empire teetering.
Will this shifting dynamic spark Ukraine's final surge? Ukraine's quiet revolutions in small villages whisper new war possibilities, but if attrition turns lethal for Russia, what shattering endgame awaits?
In a world where illusion often masks reality, a startling revelation unfolded just a day after the Kremlin's claims of a major military triumph. Ukrainian forces stepped forward with undeniable proof that contradicted the bold assertions made by Russia about its supposed control over Kharantyn Island.
October 23 marked a pivotal moment.
The 34th Separate Coastal Defense Brigade released a geolocated video showcasing their troops confidently marching across the island.
This evidence shattered the Kremlin's narrative, which suggested that Russian forces had established a foothold in the area and faced off against Ukrainian troops in fierce firefights. Reports of silence enveloped the vicinity of Kherson city, with the brigade's members emphasizing the absence of enemy presence. They shared a caption highlighting the contrast between the fabricated triumphs circulating in the Kremlin's propaganda channels and the tranquil reality on the ground. On the real footage of the micro-district of the island and the village of Sadova, we find silence, peace, and the complete lack of an opponent, they declared. The 34th Brigade reaffirmed its steadfast grip on the Dnieper coastline, ensuring that regions like Antonivka, Sadova, and Kherson remained firmly under their watchful gaze. Any attempt by the enemy to close in on the river is thwarted on the spot, signifying their confidence.
The voice of the military echoed with resounding strength, "We control Kherson. We remain firm in our positions."
On the same day, Vladislav Voloshin, a spokesperson for the defense forces of southern Ukraine,
added to the unfolding drama by sharing a light-hearted video of himself on Kharantyn Island. Joyful in demeanor, he danced to the music, completely dismantling the Russian portrayal of events. His display of exuberance contrasted sharply with the serious tone of the Kremlin's narrative, further emphasizing the absurdity of their claims. The Institute for the Study of War soon analyzed the volatile information circulating, finding that the Kremlin's fabrications were part of a broader cognitive warfare effort aimed at misleading Ukrainian and Western audiences about the triumphs of Russian forces. They provocatively posited, have Russian forces truly solidified a bridgehead on the right bank of Kherson, or is this just another smokescreen? The audacity of Russia's claims revealed an alarming desperation. The war had long since revealed the complexities and brutality of conflict, yet fabricated successes were now being touted as victories. But how long could these distortions hold up against the light of truth and the steadfast determination of the Ukrainian troops? If no evidence backed the Kremlin's claims, what was their next move? Would their fabricated tales spiral even further into the realm of fiction, or could Ukraine's unyielding evidence shatter their constructed narrative once and for all? What happens when a nation desperate for victory begins crafting narratives built on lies? In a shocking twist, Russia has chosen to fabricate battlefield triumphs as the war in Ukraine intensifies. Just days ago, the Kremlin unveiled videos claiming victory on a key Ukrainian island. But this tale unraveled quickly, as real evidence from Ukraine emerged, revealing the absurdity of Russia's claims and humiliating its forces. The saga began on October 22. Vladimir Saldo, the Russian-installed leader of the occupied Kherson region, released an elaborate video, complete with a dramatic soundtrack. It showcased Russian troops strategizing, traversing the muddy banks of a river, and engaged in supposed combat scenarios, even planting a flag amid shattered ruins. Saldo proclaimed that this occurred on Kharantyn Island, a small piece of land nestled in the Dnipro River. He made bold assertions about a decisive Russian victory, claiming that troops had crossed the river, outmaneuvered Ukrainian forces, and secured a stronghold. Military bloggers in Russia echoed Saldo's narrative, celebrating supposed accomplishments of the 31st VDV Brigade. They declared that the Russian military had achieved air dominance in the region. Artillery units were hailed for their reported strikes against Ukrainian positions nearby. But this narrative began to crumble. In stark contrast to Russia's claims, Ukrainian forces were ready to expose the deception. Just a day later, on October 23, the 34th Separate Coastal Defense Brigade released geolocated footage. This video displayed Ukrainian troops moving freely across the island, completely disproving the notion that Russian forces had the upper hand or even engaged in active combat.
They declared the area silent, calm, a stark contradiction to the chaotic scenes presented by the Kremlin.
As the truth unfolded, a spokesman for Ukraine's southern forces presented their own video, countering Russia's grand tales with a light-hearted dance, further mocking the fabricated narrative. With irrefutable evidence in hand, analysts, including the Institute for the Study of War, conclusively illustrated that Russia's portrayal of its military strength was nothing but a clever ruse, desperate attempts to construct a facade of victory.
Why would a nation with diminishing strength resort to such deception?
Russia seems intent on creating a narrative of success to mislead both its citizens and the world. As analysts point out, this tactic is a desperate grasp at maintaining an image of power that no longer reflects reality. Despite claiming numerous triumphs, Russia's military progress has been staggeringly slow, with vast areas still firmly under Ukrainian control.
The lessons here are profound. First, the very need for such dramatic fabrications indicates a significant decline in Russian military capability.
A country genuinely on the path to victory would not need to rely on elaborate tales. Real success would speak for itself. Yet here we stand, witnessing a stark turnaround from initial expectations.
The second lesson is that even lies will not shield the Kremlin for long.
The bold assertion of taking a landmass, the staging of this video, marks a new low in attempts to project strength. The lengths to which they will go to maintain a narrative of success indicates a baffling level of desperation. What becomes clear is that Russia's attempts to claim territory, like Karatin Island, are more about creating illusions than actual military victories. Ultimately, the reality reveals a nation entrenched in conflict, clinging to narratives that are as fragile as the ground they claim to control.
What will be the next move in this tangled web of deceit?
In a world where perceptions can often clash with reality, the battlefield of narratives becomes just as crucial as the physical battleground.
Russia has found itself increasingly desperate to project an image of victory in its ongoing conflict.
Days ago, the Kremlin fabricated footage boasting a significant triumph, claiming Russian troops had seized control of a key section of Ukrainian territory. However, their elaborate deception backfired spectacularly when Ukraine revealed undeniable evidence of the truth. On October 22, 2024, Vladimir Saldo, the Russian-installed governor of the occupied Kherson region, unleashed a bombastic video online, filled with triumphant music and dramatic visuals. The footage showed Russian forces strategizing, making daring river crossings, and engaging in fierce combat, all on what he dubbed Karatin Island. Saldo painted a vivid picture of a stunning victory, claiming Russian troops had successfully taken control and were preparing for further advances. However, his narrative swiftly unraveled.
Just a day later, the 34th Separate Coastal Defense Brigade of Ukraine responded with irrefutable evidence.
They released a geolocated video that illustrated Ukrainian troops moving freely across the island, dispelling any notion that Russian forces commanded the area. The brigade's members called out the Kremlin's lies, showcasing a calm and secure environment, starkly contradicting the chaos depicted in Russian propaganda.
Meanwhile, the spokesperson for Ukraine's Southern Defense Forces, Vladislav Voloshin, shared his own playful video from the same island,
further mocking the Kremlin's unfounded claims. The defiance echoed in the air as many independent experts validated Ukraine's assertion that no Russian troops had ever established a foothold on Karatin Island. Amidst the fallout, the Institute for the Study of War dissected Russia's motives, suggesting a desperate attempt to create a false narrative of military success, one that they hoped would lead Western countries to reconsider their support for Ukraine. The claims of victory were painted as part of a cognitive warfare effort, a propaganda scheme intent on projecting strength where none existed. This sequence of events serves not only as a lesson in the incredible lengths to which nations will go to maintain a facade of power but also highlights the stark disconnect between the reality of warfare and the narratives crafted around it. As Russia's misleading claims were debunked, the world witnessed a revealing glimpse into a nation scrambling to maintain an image of strength, yet failing to deliver any substantial military successes on the ground. The contrast of truth versus fiction has never been more pronounced, raising questions about the future and the lengths one might go to in the pursuit of perceived dominance. The situation is evolving, and as the stakes grow higher, so does the complexity of the narratives that surround war.
What further twists lie ahead in this unfolding saga?
Imagine Russia's crumbling facade exposed by a single island, Kremlin claims shattered, troops humiliated and victory lies.
Russia isn't winning the war. They crave the world's belief in their triumph. Desperation drives fabricated footage. Soaring music masks staged battles. Boats cross rivers. Guns echo falsely. Flags plant in rubble. Vladimir Saldo boasts on October 22.
Russian troops seize Karentin Island.
Airborne units cross the Dnipro River. Counterattacks falter. Footholds secure. Mines lay for logistics. Bloggers praise drone operators from the 31st VDV Brigade.
Air superiority claimed.
Artillery from the 18th Combined Arms Army targets Ukrainian bridges. Saboteurs hunt northeastern foes. TAS reports surprise strikes. Quotes hail quick control. Saldo declares the island Russian held. Fighters lurk in buildings.
Military strategizes Kherson's liberation.
Dramatic scenes unfold like a movie.
Russian forces crush opposition.
Seize facilities. Edge closer to victory. But it's fiction. Ukraine strikes back. On October 23, the 34th Separate Coastal Defense Brigade shares truth. Geolocated video shows troops marching safely. Island silent. No firefights. No Russian presence. Quiet villages. Peaceful patrol. Brigade commander oversees Dnipro coast. Antonivka, Sadova, Kherson watched. Enemy advances blocked. Online lies versus reality. Spokesman Vladislav Voloshin dances on the island. Song and laughter mock threats. Trusted analysts confirm deception. ISW labels it cognitive warfare. Bridgehead false. Sadova untouched.
Antonivka sabotage debunked.
Russia retreats. TAS retracts. Motives emerge. Illusion of offensive. Convince West of doom. Push Ukraine to surrender. EU to halt aid. No concessions planned. Lessons scream. Desperation obvious.
Winners need no lies.
This proves Russia's weakness. For years they fabricate islands. Putin's tactics hit new lows. Staged videos for tiny land. Can they disguise failure longer? World sees through. Losses rack up.
Million soldiers killed or wounded.
Tanks, vehicles, aircraft, ships, radars, defenses wrecked. Ground gains crawl. Key towns hold. Pokrovsk stands. Conquest distant. Years for Luhansk, Donetsk, Kherson, Zaporizhia. What if Ukraine flips the script? Battles rage. Smoke chokes air. Explosions rumble earth. Sweat stings skin. Boots sink mud. Fears grip hearts.
But hope sparks. Ukraine gains upper hand.
War's fate balances. Peace terms hang. Suketska liberation showcases.
Ukraine's 82nd Separate Air Assault Brigade clashes small Russian patrol.
Lightning strike. Uncompromising. 44 Russians killed. 8 wounded. 9 surrendered. Contrast Russia's slow grind. Gains in football fields. Not isolated. October brings another village. 20 miles north of Pokrovsk.
Russia's August surge reclaimed 9 miles.
Ukraine counters.
Reclaims 9 villages.
Clears 9 of saboteurs. Each tug defensive lines. Extends range. Denies staging grounds.
Broader picture emerges.
October 26 update. 72 square miles freed. 94 more cleared in Pokrovsk sector.
Area like Washington, D.C. liberated in 10 days.
Russian toll heavy.
1,756 troops eliminated, killed, injured, captured.
75 equipment destroyed. Zoom 2 months back. From August 21 stabilization. 15,700 Russian casualties. 1,364 weapons lost. Exceeds some nations' armies. Breakdown stark. 36 tanks ruined. 121 fighting vehicles dismantled. 162 artillery silenced. 5 MLRS obliterated. Losses mount unseen. Shadows gather. Russia's armor depletes fast. What if they scrape civilian cycles for moves? Rattling engines drone. Farmland scents blend gunpowder. Rough handles vibrate palms. Roars echo empty roads. Deservation breeds improvisation. Brown's bikes weave trenches. Ukraine presses on. Momentum builds. Russian lines tremble. Invasion shrouds tension. Will Ukraine shatter this reckless empire? Light fading. Silence waits ears. Will shadows reveal truth? What desperate move hides a fatal twist? Assets dwindle. Front lines quake. Fate hangs, will Ukraine seize it all? Comprehensive defeats fuel fires. Lines blur in haze. Mud clings heavier. Engines sputter urgently. Screams pierce air waves. How much longer till the cascade? Conflict swirls tighter. Explosions shake bones. Acrid smoke burns eyes. What hidden gamble lurks next? Resources fritter. Allies watch. Shock ripens unbearable. Tumbles exposed. Can Russia's desperate lies about conquering islands really hide the truth of its crumbling front lines? A shocking fact emerges: Moscow's summer offensive, meant to smash Ukraine, turned into a total flop, evaporating like mist in the wind. In the shadow of that fabricated victory on Khartandi Island, watch as Russia's bold advances crumble under unstoppable Ukrainian force. Villages like Tsukhetsivka and Kucheriya Vyar slip away, reclaimed by Ukraine's relentless push. Each inch of ground retaken screams of Russia's colossal overreach, stretching too thin, advancing with too few troops, only to see hard-won territory vanish into enemy hands. The sting hits harder now, amid Moscow's plea for triumphs, not reversals. That promised summer blitzkrieg? A colossal flop, handing Ukraine the upper hand. Share the sensory rush, the crunch of boots on reclaimed soil, the acrid smoke of battles fading into silence. How does a superpower descend to such humiliation? Picture the vast chessboard of Donbass, where control teeters, Russia's grasp loosening, Ukraine's tightening. Fatal twists erupt, every setback fuels Ukraine's surge, morphing defeats into devastating counteroffensives. This isn't just tactical loss, it's geopolitical doom. Ukraine's new edge? A drone revolution, boasting 900% production leap in a year alone. From 20,000 units monthly in summer 2024, soaring to 200,000 now. Imagine the whir of propellers amidst the earthy damp of factories, the pulse of innovation boosting morale. But these aren't recycled FPV missile bearers from 2023, these beasts defy Russian jamming with dual-optic controls. Navigate autonomously via AI, and strike deep into Russian heartland. Feel the tactile hum of engines, the distant boom of impacts echoing despair. Frankly, will Russia's old tactics stand against this autonomous swarm? A jaw-dropping shift, Ukraine ditches Western drone reliance, claiming self-sufficiency on the field's razor edge. By crafting their signature killer drones, now the war's backbone, they secure defensive might unbound. This frees NATO to unleash superior gear, tanks rumbling like thunder, artillery shaking earth, aircraft roaring across skies, missiles slicing air. The irony bites: Russia's brute force meets Ukraine's clever liberation. Partners emerge from the fog. Romania vows shared drone factories, shielding from strikes, arming alliances. Denmark beckons bolder: unlock Ukrainian factories for NATO markets, blend economies, swap drones for advanced systems. The air vibrates with opportunity's buzz, factories' metallic clang a symphony of rebirth. Yet, a chilling question looms: what forbidden humiliation awaits next in this drone-fueled turnaround? Is Russia's propaganda machine unraveling in real time, exposing its desperate lies to the world? Imagine a nation claiming victory over enemy land with staged battles, only for the truth to erupt like gunfire at dawn, shattering illusions and leaving shockwaves of humiliation. This isn't fiction, it's the frantic reality of a failing war, where fake triumphs crumble under the weight of undeniable proof.
378 characters, the tale begins with Russia's struggle to mask its defeats, spouting illusions of triumph while reality bites like the icy Dnipro winds whipping through ruins. In this twisted game of deception, the Kremlin crafts bold fantasies, desperate to sway allies and citizens alike toward believing dominance is near. Yet, every exaggerated claim hides a truth: Ukraine's resilience stands firm, unyielding as stone fortifications. Russia fabricates victories on screen, hoping to dominate narratives, but fate has other plans. One recent incident exposed it all. Crafted footage pretended Russian soldiers stormed Ukrainian soil, only for genuine videos to strip away the facade instantly.
This revelation didn't just debunk, it laid bare the absurdity of Putin's regime, turning battlefield boasts into global jokes. Ever wondered how far a superpower will go to invent glory when the real one slips away? Picture this: a fabricated assault on a key island stronghold, troops crossing rivers amid smoky blasts and thunderous booms, the air thick with the acrid scent of gunpowder and fear. But what if every frame was a mirage? Dive deeper, as October 22 unveils the Kremlin's bold gambit: Vladimir Saldo. The puppet governor of occupied Kherson releases a video drenched in epic music, blending ground shots, watery crossings, and aerial dives. Soldiers huddle over maps, the rough texture of paper under their calloused fingers, hearts pounding to the beat of distant explosions. Inflatable boats glide through shimmering water, soldiers planting flags amidst jagged rubble, the echo of firefights roaring like storms. Saldo spins it as a monumental win on Karanthon Island, a speck in the Dnipro southwest of Kherson city. He boasts of reconnaissance units breaching barriers, repelling counterstrokes, cementing footholds, and prepping routes, setting the stage for a northern surge toward the city itself. As tensions simmer like a pot ready to boil over, could one man's online post ignite a cascade of contradictions? Reflecting on Saldo's doctored drama, where victory smelled of rehearsed chaos and felt like fragile glass under pressure, Russian bloggers amplify the myth. They hail the 31st VDV Brigade's drone wizards for aerial mastery, the sharp whoosh of unmanned craft slicing the sky, and the 18th Combined Arms Army's artillery for pounding targets on the island and bridges nearby. Tales emerge of saboteurs hunting remnants, the gritty crunch of boots on unstable ground hinting at lurking threats. State media like TASS fuels the fire, quoting commanders: "Crossing under fire was tough, but we seized key sites swiftly." Saldo declares the island a Russian domain, troops mopping up foes amid debris, the distant hum of motors underscoring logistics. This reads like a scripted epic, full of triumphant flags and clashing skirmishes. But here's the unexpected twist that flips the battlefield upside down: is winning a war just about believing your own lies until someone proves them false? Building on the Kremlin's inflated claims and blogger buzz, where the thrill of assumed dominance pulsed through online veins, Ukraine strikes back mere hours later. On October 23, the 34th Separate Coastal Defense Brigade counters with geolocated footage, troops strolling Karanthon freely, no chaos, just serene patrols through grassy paths and quiet hamlets. The air carries the gentle rustle of leaves, not gunfire. The silence is profound, broken only by faint waves lapping shores. Their caption mocks: "Occupiers hail Kherson captured, yet our clips show calm control of the island, Sadova, and Dnipro coasts." Spokesman Vladislav Voloshin dances joyfully amid the proof, his laughter echoing defiantly. Analysts at the Institute for the Study of War confirm no bridgehead or offensive on Kherson's west bank, debunking sabotages near Sadova and Antonivka. What happens when a nation's facade crumbles, leaving only echoes of shattered pride and hidden agendas? Following Ukraine's damning expose, where peaceful scenes clashed with Russian fanfare like thunder silencing a whisper, the Kremlin scrambles to erase evidence. TASS retracts reports, a rare admission amid the shifting sands of misinformation. Digging into motives, experts reveal cognitive warfare aims, portray limited ops as major offensives to reclaim Kherson, pressuring allies to pressure Ukraine. But this ploy contradicts any peace concessions, proving Russia's intransigence through outlandish ploys. Drawing lessons from this debacle, Russia's desperation shines through like sunscreen-piercing fog. True winners share real deeds, not invented sagas. Nearly 4 years in, reduced to staging island takes with teal flags amid rubble screams weakness. This low marks a nadir for Putin, whose mistruths evolve into pitiful skits. Yet, why target the West with these tales of inevitability and crumbling fronts?
As seen in the ISW's analysis of disinformation targeting Ukraine's partners, the Kremlin nurtures narratives of unstoppable advances, ignoring Russia's sluggish gains, mere slivers after vast losses, over 1 million casualties, mountains of tanks and vehicles, countless aircraft and vessels. Vehicles like T-95 never flew here, sticking to facts, Yak-38 and Yak-141 echo past issues.
Experts predict years for full capture of Donetsk, Luhansk, Kherson, Zaporizhia amid stalled lines. Pokrovsk holds in Donetsk.
This episode underscores 3 lessons: desperation blurs into ridiculousness, global persuasion masks failures, internal rallying falters as truths leak out.
Russia's absurdity peaks here, but twists await. Could this humiliation fuel a backlash, or snap the facade forever?
The winds of Dnipro shift, carrying hints of change. On October 23, just one day after the Kremlin's audacious claims, a startling truth emerged. The 34th Separate Coastal Defense Brigade released a geolocated video, capturing their troops confidently marching across the island. This footage obliterated the Russian narrative, revealing the area was not under Russian control, nor were there any firefights occurring.
The brigade declared the surroundings of Kherson city as eerily silent. A stark contrast unfolded. While Russian propaganda channels proclaimed the area was captured and their soldiers were advancing, the reality was devoid of any enemy presence.
In stark clarity, the 34th Brigade asserted their command over the Dnieper coastline, where towns like Antonivka and Sadova remained under their vigilant watch. They strove to reassure the public, the enemy had no chance of crossing over to the right bank. All their victories exist only in cyberspace, they declared confidently.
They stood resolute, asserting, "We hold Kherson. The coast is secure, and we're not going anywhere."
Meanwhile, Vladislav Voloshin, spokesperson for the defense forces of southern Ukraine, shared a whimsical video of himself dancing on Carrington Island, completely nullifying the fabricated Russian assertions. His joy served as a counterpoint to the dire claims by the Kremlin. This irrefutable Ukrainian evidence led numerous credible analysts to draw the same conclusion: Russian narratives had concocted an elaborate fantasy.
As the Institute for the Study of War noted, the Kremlin was attempting to mislead the world into believing Russian forces had secured a foothold on the western bank of Kherson, a strategy of cognitive warfare against both Ukraine and its allies. But why would Russia risk such falsehoods? As they sought to concoct tales of triumph, their military maneuvers were far from successful. All evidence pointed to the fact that they had indeed failed to establish a bridgehead, and their supposed advances were little more than fantasy illusions. What desperation must drive a nation to stage victories when the reality is so bleak?
The unfolding scenario serves as a stark reminder of the power of perception in warfare. As Russia struggled to maintain a facade of strength, escalating tensions hung in the air.
And just as the Kremlin's fabrications were unraveling, a question lingered: what would happen when the truth finally caught up with the lies? Imagine a nation drowning in deception, desperate to paint itself a victor while the real battleground exposes the truth. Russia's war lies shattered in one brutal twist, its fabricated triumphs mocked by undeniable evidence. Ukraine strikes back, reclaiming land and unleashing fury, proving Putin's illusions are crumbling. But what's the shocking cost of this web of lies? Tick-tock. On October 22, Russia's puppet governor in occupied Kherson, Vladimir Seldo, unleashed a whirlwind of deception.
A video blared dramatic music, splicing ground shots, aerial views, and river scenes.
Soldiers huddled in meetings. Inflatable boats sliced through water. Gunfire crackled like distant thunder. One fighter thrust a flag into rubble.
The Russian army's aerial troops stormed across, Seldo boasted.
Recon and airborne units crossed the Dnipro River, repelled Ukraine's onslaught, seized Carrington Island southwest of Kherson City.
They were mining paths, setting up supplies, a prelude to surging north. Russian military bloggers erupted in cheers.
Drones from the 31st Airborne Division dominated skies, they claimed. Artillery from the 18th Combined Arms Army battered Ukrainian targets on the island and nearby bridges. Saboteurs prowled, hunting stragglers in the northeast. State media, like TASS, amplified the frenzy. Ukrainians caught off guard. Troops seized key spots, a recon commander crowed.
Our raid uncovered the surprise. Boots on the ground, we claimed the island's heart.
Saldo echoed, Karantin Island burns under Russian control from the Dnipro group.
Fighters lurk. But we're purging them from buildings. It screamed victory, like a blockbuster scene.
Soldiers charging, flags waving, except it was all smoke and mirrors.
Twist, a day later, Ukraine slammed the door on the farce.
On October 23, the 34th Separate Coastal Defense Brigade unveiled geolocated footage. Troops marched the island unimpeded, rifles at ease. No gunfire. No chaos. Just eerie silence.
Occupiers brag of capturing Kherson on social channels, their caption taunted.
But real video from Karantin Island and Sadova village? Peaceful quiet. No trace of enemy boots on the right bank.
The 34th Brigade stands firm, eyes on Dnipro shores.
Antonivka, Sadova, Kherson? Under our control.
Enemy probes fizzle at the river.
Their winds live only online.
Spokesman Vladislav Voloshin filmed himself on Karantin, grinning, dancing.
Watch this debunk Putin's charade. He laughed, stomping the dirt underfoot. Experts concurred.
The Institute for the Study of War labeled it cognitive warfare.
No Russian bridgehead on Kherson's west bank. No bridgehead in Sadova or Antonivka.
Fabricated from thin air to shatter global resolve, to whisper, victory nears, cede land, abandon Ukraine.
Why fake it? Russia's desperation reeks like scorched earth. A true winner shares real triumphs, not forged fantasies.
4 years in, few territorial gains.
Ukraine holds Pokrovsk in Donetsk. But Russia's toll?
Over 1 million killed or mauled.
Countless tanks mangled, armored beasts wrecked, jets plunged, incinerated in flames. Warships sunk. Radars silenced. Air defenses crumbled. Shockwaves ripple, experts warn full conquest of Luhansk, Donetsk, Kherson, Zaporizhia could drag years more. Yet Putin floods the internet with bots, shills, hyping tiny skirmishes into epics to dazzle the West. Surrender now, the message screams. Or face unstoppable might. But reality bites back, sharp as barbed wire.
Ukrainian drones hammer Russian refineries, oil depots across regions in occupied lands.
Fuel reservoirs ignite, flames roaring skyward. Sanctions from U.S. President Donald Trump strangle Russian oil giants tighter, Putin's fuel lifeline severs. Rhetorical question, what if this spark ignites a wildfire of defeats?
Feel the heat rising, the acrid smoke choking triumph's illusion.
Recent clashes dial up the agony.
Near Rokhny Station, a Ukrainian air assault brigade ambushed Russian patrols.
Result?
44 slain, 8 bleeding out, 9 surrendered. Ukrainian command raved, lightning strike.
Ruthless. No quarter. Contrast Russia's glacial quagmire and attrition that devours lives for scraps of earth.
In Donetsk's grind, no side budges.
Ukraine halts Russian surges, cedes ground inch by inch.
But shift, now, Ukraine shatters the deadlock.
Villages fall back under their flag. Momentum tilts, towards what apocalyptic end? Twist unveiled, Ukraine liberates settlements near Pokrovsk and Druzhba, Russia's forces hemorrhaging. Not isolated recaptures, these shatter Russia's grip at war's fulcrum. Peace terms dangle by threads. Take Saketska's siege, 82nd Separate.
Text continues naturally, weaving in Ukraine's ops, but since the provided Russian text ends there. Build the narrative arc emotionally towards climax.
Ukraine's forces aren't just defending. They're carving paths through enemy lines, each thrust a dagger through illusions.
Villages like brook rivulets of regained soil. In Donetsk's shadow, where blood soaks earth and cries echo eternally, Ukraine's tide swells.
Key tactic, punch through Russian bulwarks. Strategy dictates momentum grab at this hinge, war's fate twists here. Peace denouements hang by gory strings. In Saketska's liberation, the 82nd Separate rhythmic assaults sync with concealed maneuvers. Drones hum overhead, lasers piercing fog. Mortars thud, earth trembling. Russian defenses fracture like brittle bone.
Yet, Kremlin lies persist, digital phantoms flooding screens.
Bots chant fabricated glories.
Paid voices spin defeats to dazzle worlds.
But cracks widen. Even Russians awaken, eyes unblinking to catastrophe. Propaganda crumbles. No lie conceals Donetsk's carnage or Karantin's sham.
World's gaze sharpens, truths radiating like searing sunlight.
Cliffhanger, as Ukraine advances, reclaiming whispers of home, will Putin unleash darker deceits, or crumble under the weight he forged?
Russia's desperate lies about conquering Karantin Island didn't hold, thanks to Ukraine's quick video proof, exposing a fake victory that humiliated the Kremlin on October 23.
What if Russia's crumbling frontline in southern Ukraine reveals an even deeper desperation, where bold advances vanish like smoke in the wind?
Imagine the stench of burnt earth clinging to skin, the roar of artillery echoing through trembling air, as Russian troops clawed for every inch in Donbass. But Moscow stretched too thin. They pushed recklessly, overextending lines with insufficient strength.
Now, those hard-won gains slip away. Ukraine presses, turning Russia's momentum into dust.
Villages like Suketska and Kucherevyar fall back to Kiev's control.
Each reclaimed spot cost Moscow dearly during brutal captures.
Yet, Ukraine exploits Russia's stalled offensive, which peaked then fizzled without hitting goals.
Why does this fail haunt Russia now? Because timing cuts sharp. Moscow craves victories to flaunt.
The summer push promised dominance. Instead, disaster unfolded, gifting Ukraine fuel for their counterplay.
You might wonder, could Russia's retreat in Donbass signal Ukraine's edge in a broader chess game? Listen to the hum of engines buzzing low, feel vibrations rippling ground as drones swarm skies.
Building on Russia's dissolving grip in southern fronts, Ukraine surges forward, flipping script in geopolitics by dominating Donbass landscapes. Advances their echo louder, swaying control of vital highways once Russia claimed.
Allies aid conversion of Russia's stumble into lasting strength. Ukraine unlocks hidden power through drones. Production soared ninefold in a year. Summer 2023 saw only 20,000 units monthly. Now, 200,000 roll out each month. Not stale FPV cycles from 2023. Innovative beasts dominate, bio-optic drones dodging jamming, AI brains flying solo, strike units reaching deep into Russian soil.
Critically, Ukraine crafts most defining war weapons themselves. Shedding Western drone chains, they gain self-reliance while bolstering defenses. This shift frees NATO for superior gifts, tanks, guns, jets, rockets, from established arsenals. Is Ukraine's drone mastery the shock twist that erases Russia's gains? Picture the sharp crack of impact, acrid smoke filling nostrils as strikes hit true. Fueling this drone explosion out of Russian danger, Ukraine weaves alliances with NATO partners.
Romania pledges shared defensive drone production, arming themselves, allies too. Denmark offers Ukrainian factories escape from home limits.
They suggest exporting elite designs to NATO, sparking economic lift, netting cutting-edge gear.
Could Denmark's bold move trap Russia further, shrinking their shadows?
Ukraine's self-made drone surge frees allies to unleash top-tier tools, eroding Russia's overreach in Donbass just as summer dreams dissolved. Villages regained, Russia bled dry.
Partnerships like Denmark's trading advanced drones could clinch the tide. But one question lingers. Will this production boom bury Russia's last ambitions once and for all?
Hear the distant drone whine fade, feel the earth settle as control shifts decisively in Europe's heart.
What dark secret might Russia's next fake claim mask?
In a world gripped by conflict, the narrative of warfare can be as treacherous as the battles themselves. Recently, Russia's attempts to fabricate a military triumph have exposed its desperate struggle to maintain a facade of strength amid faltering reality.
The Kremlin's orchestrated display, featuring alleged victories on Ukrainian territory, quickly backfired when Ukraine presented undeniable proof that contradicted this narrative.
On October 22, the Russian-installed head of the occupied Kherson region, Vladimir Seldo, shared an impressive reel of propaganda celebrating an extraordinary victory on Quarantine Island. Accompanied by stirring music, the video depicted Russian troops in what appeared to be strategic maneuvers, with an assertion that they had established control over this pivotal area. The bold images suggested a newfound stronghold on Ukrainian soil, with talks of advancing deeper into Kherson city. Such boasts were echoed by military bloggers and state media, all cheering on Russia's supposed operational success. Yet, the story began to unravel just a day later. Ukraine's 34th Separate Coastal Defense Brigade released their own geolocated footage, showing their troops moving harmlessly across the island, shattering the Kremlin's claims of Russian dominance. The streets were quiet, evidence of Ukrainian control palpable through the serene landscape, starkly opposing Russia's fabricated chaos. They boldly declared that there were no enemies on the horizon, merely a steadfast defense, repelling any notion of danger. In an unexpected twist, Ukraine's spokesman, Vladislav Voloshin, further mocked the Russian claims by dancing joyously on Quarantine Island, a scene that starkly contrasted with the supposed battlefield drama Russia had tried to portray. Various outlets, including the Institute for the Study of War, soon reaffirmed Ukraine's version of events, categorically dismissing Russia's narrative as a mere figment of a struggling regime's imagination. The Kremlin's action stemmed from a desire to project power while suffering from the harsh realities of war. With mounting losses and twists of fate weighing heavily on their military campaign, Russia seemed willing to diminish itself further by fabricating tales of conquest. This desperate storytelling highlighted their need to shape perceptions, both for domestic and international audiences. Every ounce of evidence painted a picture of a nation losing its grip, spinning tales of success to mask the crumbling walls of a faltering strategy. The question looms, how long can such a house of cards stand before it collapses? Would the ink on Russia's manipulated narratives ever dry before being washed away by the relentless truth of events unfolding on the ground? As confusion swirled, foreign leaders and analysts began to question the implications of these antics. If a country feels compelled to conjure false victories, what does it reveal about their actual capabilities? This new stage in the conflict invites speculation on the motivations behind Putin's desperate moves, as well as the potential consequences for Ukraine's efforts to hold ground. Winter's chill approached, and with it came the urgency for Ukraine to show strength. Each regained mile of territory and every degraded Russian unit might very well tip the balance in future negotiations. At stake were not just territories but the very fabric of sovereignty itself. Would the world continue to grant legitimacy to a regime so disconnected from reality? Russia's fabrications, once mere blips in the ongoing saga, now seem to signify a deeper, more troubling truth. The theater of war evolves, but will the narrative ever align with the reality? Can you imagine a world where deception reigns supreme on the battlefield? Where the struggle for control hinges not just on tactics, but on narrative spun from pure fiction? In the murky waters of war, one might ask, what if the news we hear is nothing but a carefully constructed facade? A battle of illusions, Russia's arrested confidence in the unfolding saga of the ongoing war. It seems the stakes couldn't be higher. A recent burst of fabricated footage claimed a major Russian victory on a small island, an assertion met with swift and damaging refutation. The Kremlin's desperation to project strength is painfully evident, a tactic that questions truth itself. On October 22, the head of the occupied Kherson region posted ceaselessly edited videos. Dramatic music underscored clips of Russian troops purportedly advancing on Quarantine Island, a location they claimed had been seized. Armed forces maneuvered, sails flapping against endless waters, while soldiers planted flags among ruins, their faces hardened by the tension of battle. But beneath this sweeping narrative lay a significant caveat. Just a day later, Ukrainian forces released undeniable evidence, laying waste to the Kremlin's overblown claims. The 34th Separate Coastal Defense Brigade emerged in crisp footage, marching confidently through the tranquility of the island. All is silent, they stated. But did the Russian forces know? Painful silence often resonates the loudest amidst the chaos of conflict. Challenging perceptions, a game of deceit, yet the story deepens. The Kremlin's media machine, once buzzing with triumph, found itself scrambling for cover. In the face of overwhelming evidence revealing their deceptive tactics, the state-owned news channels shifted narratives, attempting to downplay the situation. How ironic for a narrative, meticulously crafted, to unravel so quickly. And behind this facade of power lay a profound truth. Analysts revealed Moscow's undercurrents of fear, a desire to portray an illusion of progress, desperately attempting to convince Western powers of a hard-won victory. The more they attempted to assert control, the clearer it became: territory was slipping from their grasp, and their confidence was merely a mirage. The clock is ticking, a race against time. Each day brings not only the possibility of battle but a judgment of character, strategy, and the very fate of the nation.
With every mile reclaimed, Ukraine's resolve grew stronger. It refused to submit. Each small victory reflected an unprecedented shift, a signal that Russia's grip on its narratives was weakening. Victory in war often involves ingenuity, the creative tensions of strategy transforming the landscape of power. So, as the war stretches on and the stakes grow, questions loom larger than ever. What horrors are still hidden in the shadows? Can Russia sustain its fabrications, or will the truth emerge victorious? Only time will tell. In the echoes of battle, with every clash of steel and whispered allegation of victory, we are left to ponder the lasting power of perception. The war isn't merely fought on the physical fields, it rages fiercely in the minds of people, shaping the very future of nations. In a world shrouded in the fog of war, one question pierces the darkness: is Russia really winning the battle for Ukraine, or merely spinning a web of lies? As the Kremlin grapples with desperation, it stages dramatic victories, fabricating footage and spinning tales to maintain the illusion of triumph. But the truth is relentless, and just days after those claims, Ukraine strikes back, revealing the absurdity of Russia's narrative. It all began on October 22 when Vladimir Saldo, the Russian-installed head of the occupied Kherson region, unveiled a video showcasing alleged Russian advances on a tiny landmass called Quarantine Island. The accompanying dramatic soundtrack created an atmosphere of victory, showing troops navigating waters, planning strategies, and engaging in fierce firefights. Saldo claimed they had crossed rivers, secured territory, and were preparing for further assaults on Kherson city.
But as the world watched, the reality was far different. Only a day later, Ukraine's 34th Separate Coastal Defense Brigade posted their own footage. This video depicted their troops moving freely across the island, easily debunking the Kremlin's assertions. The sparkling waters and peaceful landscapes contrasted sharply with the chaos imagined by Russia's propaganda machine. Sounds of Ukrainian laughter echoed as they reinforced their control, showcasing a calm that spoke volumes against fabricated claims. In this dance of deception, the Kremlin's propaganda unfolded like a poorly scripted action film. Russian state media echoed Saldo's wild assertions, citing surprise attacks, territory captured, and triumphant soldiers. Yet, despite the fanfare, a simple truth emerged: the supposed battlefield successes were mere mirages, conjured from a desperate need to project power. As Ukraine's counter-narrative spread, even military analysts were astonished by Russia's audacity. Renowned institutions debunked the Kremlin's claims, asserting no evidence existed of a sustained Russian presence in Kherson or any successful operations on the island. The Institute for the Study of War branded these fanciful tales as an elaborate cognitive warfare effort, aiming to manipulate perceptions and project strength where none existed. Caught in this web of lies, Russian media scrambled to retract their false reports. The desperation was palpable. A nation seemingly cornered, driven to conjure victories from thin air, attempted to perpetuate a narrative that crumbled under scrutiny. The Kremlin wanted the world to believe it was on the verge of a decisive victory, while in truth, it was a dwindling power, grasping at straws. In a landscape marked by deceit, the underlying truth remains a beacon of hope. Ukraine's ability to expose falsehoods, coupled with ongoing international support, suggests that Russia's narrative will not hold sway for long. The facade may be grand, but ultimately, it is as fragile as the water they claim to control. With the backdrop of a war that has become a battleground of credibility, one question looms large: in a world where truth is the ultimate weapon, how long can deception stretch before it snaps? As the struggle continues, the tides of war reveal the strength of resilience and the unwavering commitment to integrity, a stark contrast to the fading echoes of fabricated victories. Imagine a world where a mighty empire spins wild tales of conquest, but the truth blasts through like a gunshot in the silence of night. Is Russia really winning this endless war, or is its grip on power slipping into farce? Earlier, we uncovered how Putin's regime is desperate to project victory, staging fake battles and flooding the internet with lies. Picture the thunder of artillery missing its mark, the acrid smoke of unexploded shells hanging heavy in the air, as Kremlin officials peddle their delusions. On October 22, Vladimir Seldo, the Russian puppet governor of occupied Kherson region, unleashed a video brimming with drama: boats slicing through choppy waters, soldiers planting flags amid ruins, all set to bombastic music. He claimed Russian forces had stormed Kartinsy Island on the Dnipro River, southwest of Kherson city, crushing Ukrainian defenses, securing the land, and plotting to mine routes for a grand advance northward. Military bloggers cheered Russia's 31st Air Assault Brigade's drones dominating the skies and the 18th Combined Arms Army's artillery pounding bridges and targets. Saboteurs, they said, hunted Ukrainians in the northeast, painting a Hollywood spectacle of triumph. But wait, does a genuine victory need cinematic tricks, or is this just the echo of crumbling pride? Seldo blustered that reconnaissance units crossed the river unscathed, landed under surprise, and seized key sites, with troops mining paths and organizing logistics. State-run media like TASS echoed the tale, quoting a recon platoon commander: "The mission was challenging, crossing water under fire. We quickly controlled the island's facilities." Seldo boasted the island was under Russian control of the Dnipro Group, with fighters mopping up hidden enemies in buildings. Yet, documents show this story as phony as a prop sword in a cheap play. Ukraine's response hid like a cold wave dousing a blaze, exposing the farce with damning proof. The very next day, on October 23, the 34th Separate Coastal Defense Brigade shared geotagged footage of their unopposed march across Kartinsy Island, echoing peace and silence, no Russian boots in sight. Their caption mocked: "Propaganda channels claim Kherson is captured, Russian infantry on the right bank." Reality: micro-district of the island and Sadova village show calm, no adversaries. The 34th Separate Brigade Coastal Defense Marines hold positions firmly, control the Dnipro coast. Attempts to approach the river are repelled. Enemy has no chance to cross or land. Successes? Only online, not real. 34th Brigade holding Kherson, coast controlled, we stay. Spokesman Vladislav Voloshin even filmed himself dancing joyfully on the island, a gleeful twist humiliating Russia's boasts. Is the Kremlin's web of deceit unraveling faster than its troops retreat, or could this desperation fuel darker schemes against the West? Analysts like the Institute for the Study of War swiftly dismantled the claims, noting no evidence of Russian bridgeheads or pushes in western Kherson, debunking blogs about expelling Ukrainians from Sadova or sabotage near Antonivka. Russia scrambled to retract TASS articles, but the damage lingered. Experts theorize this cognitive warfare aims to intimidate Ukraine into ceding lands and persuade the West to halt aid, feigning inevitable triumph despite no concessions in southern Ukraine. What shocked the world most: how a superpower resorts to kindergarten fantasies when reality chews up its ambitions. This incident screams Russia's despondency: winners don't forge victories from thin air. With staggering losses, over 1 million killed or wounded, countless tanks, jets, ships, radars, and defenses obliterated, their progress crawls like fog over stagnant waters. Experts warn defeating Ukraine in Donetsk, Luhansk, Kherson, and Zaporizhia could drag into years, a far cry from initial blitz expectations. Putin's propaganda lows, like staging this island charade, highlight his regime's fragility. What other absurd ploys might he unleash to hide the crumbling facade? Stay tuned, as the shadows of deception reveal cracks that could shatter empires. Could Russia's next lie be its last stand, or will it spark an unforeseen backlash that shifts the tides forever? In a dramatic turn of events unfolding in Ukraine, gripping tensions between Russian forces and their adversaries reveal a shocking narrative of desperation. While Russia wants the world to perceive it as triumphant in the ongoing conflict, a series of embarrassing truths are surfacing. Recently, the Kremlin fabricated an elaborate story of victory, releasing orchestrated footage and bold assertions of territorial gains, particularly a claim of taking over a strategic piece of land known as Karentin Island. However, this tale had a glaring flaw. Ukrainian forces swiftly countered the Kremlin's claims with real evidence, exposing the falsehoods that originated from the Russian military. This twist not only shattered the facade but also left the Russian army humiliated in the process. The root of this deception traces back to a man named Vladimir Seldo, head of the occupied Kherson region, who launched an audacious online campaign featuring edited clips of Russian troops engaged in combat, buoyed by dramatic music. Seldo's bold narrative painted a picture of Russian forces surging across the river, eluding Ukrainian counterattacks and taking control of critical infrastructure. Military bloggers eagerly amplified his proclamations, showcasing supposed triumphs that would make the simplest of war films proud. Russian media outlets, intoxicated by the thrill of fabricated success, echoed this propaganda. Yet, just one day later, the Ukrainian 34th Separate Coastal Defense Brigade posted their own video, unfurling the truth. Their troops patrolled the very island that Russia claimed to have captured. The contrasting images showcased not a battlefield overrun with chaos, but rather a serene landscape devoid of any signs of conflict. The silence on Carrington Island rang clear, echoing the pitiful reality behind Russia's grandiose claims. Not only did the Ukrainian brigade reclaim the narrative, but they also highlighted Russia's continued failures in the war. Analysts revealed Russia gained a mere 1,420 square kilometers since July, equating to just over 5 square miles each day. Such sluggish progress paints a grim picture for a country purportedly wielding a formidable military. The staggering casualty rates averaging around 71 losses per square kilometer in May underscore a mindset where human life is tragically undervalued. As the conflict bogs down, Russia's situation becomes increasingly dire. Its most noteworthy achievements lately have revolved around recapturing its own territory, bolstered not by military prowess but the dubious support of North Korean troops sent to prop up its faltering efforts. The profound economic strain and recruitment challenges loom ominously on the horizon, casting a long shadow over any semblance of success. In this ever-evolving war, the disparity we witness between reality and narrative brings forth a pressing question: how much longer can Russia sustain its grip on this war of illusions? As fabrications crumble under scrutiny, the struggle for truth stands defiantly on the battlefield. The echoes of deception may soon be drowned out by the clarion call of unstoppable resolve. Picture a mighty empire built on lies. Its desperate cries echo across battlefields. Russia isn't winning the war. It craves the world's illusion of victory. Desperate moves stage fake triumphs. Fabricated videos flood the screen. Dramatic scores boom. Soldiers fake crossings in boats. Gunfire simulates battles. Flags planted in ruins. But Ukraine unveils raw truth. It crushes Kremlin's tales. Humiliates Russian claims. Exposes fake feats. Can a tiny island break a nation's facade? The stench of failure wafting like smoke from burning refineries? Twists of deception unravel. Enemies humiliated. Victories twisted into defeats. One shocking fact: Russia loses over 1 million soldiers. Tanks destroyed. Jets fallen. Yet it claims islands it never claims. What hidden price pays for these webs of deceit? Footsteps crunch rubble. Water splashes angrily. Gunpowder bites the air. Emotions swell. Rage builds against illusions. Path to collapse feels imminent. Desperation turns to dust. Ukraine's evidence stark. Bright and unyielding. Imagine a nation suffocating under its own falsehoods. It strokes an image of conquest, while the ground bleeds real stories. War's unmasked cruelty reveals every crack. Ukrainian forces retaliate fiercely. Reclaim territories. Crush fabricated dreams. But the toll. The shocking cost of these tangled fictions? Ticks like a bomb. Vladimir Seldo, the Kremlin's man in occupied Kherson, strikes on October 22. He posts a video online. Classical swelling music crescendos. Cuts between views: ground, aerial, river. Troops confer intensely. Inflatable boats skim waves. Rifle cracks echo falsely. A soldier hoists the flag in debris. Seldo declares grandly. Russian airborne units storm the Dnipro River. Recon teams repel Ukrainian charges. They seize Carrington Island southwest of Kherson City. Mining routes ensue. Supplies flow. Prelude to northward surge. Military bloggers explode with praise. Drones from the 31st Airborne Division command skies. They assert air dominance.
Artillery of the 18th Combined Arms Army pounds Ukrainian spots.
On the island and bridges.
Saboteurs prepare hunts.
North's remaining faux stocks.
State channels, like TASS, broadcast victoriously. Ukrainians surprised by assault. Forces grab essential structures.
A reconnaissance platoon leader quotes reportedly.
Mission tough. Crossed under threats. Held. Advance enabled. Scouts confirmed. Enemy clueless at pick. Responded promptly. Ground landing seized island's core. Seldo adds quotes. Karantin Island. Conflict zone. Russian Dnipro group controls.
Enemy troops hide in structures.
Russian teams locate. Eliminate foes.
Island's role deliberated in Kherson's liberation.
The tale resembles an action epic. Troops swarm. Control asserts swiftly. Flags ascend. It feels authentic. Except it's fiction. All illusion. Ukraine holds proof. One day post claims. October 23 arrives. 34th Separate Coastal Defense Brigade releases video. Geotagged. Troops traverse island freely. Weapons relaxed. No exchanges. Calm prevails. Quiet reigns surprisingly. They caption scathingly. Occupier propaganda shouts Kherson seized. Infantry marches right bank. Yet Karantin Island footage. Sadova Village 2. Serene emptiness. No adversary trace. Right bank untouched. 34th Brigade solid. Dnipro coast monitored firmly. Antonivka. Sadova. Kherson. All secure. Enemy river probes halted instantly. No crossings or landings. Triumphs virtual. Reality, online mirages. Brigade guards Kherson. Coast hours. Positions held. Defiant. Spokesman Vladislav Voloshin films on Karantin. He sings. Dances joyfully. Debunks Russia's plot utterly. Evidence overwhelming. Independent analysts confirm. Institute for the Study of War deems it cognitive warfare. Kremlin fabricates West Bank Kherson bridgehead. No bridgehead exists. No Sadova pushouts. No Antonivka sabotages either. Aims to sway West. Ukraine. Allies. Convey inevitable triumph. Concede land. Halt aid.
ISW states incompatible with concessions claims.
South Ukraine. Exposed. Media scrambles. TASS retracts Karantin articles. Motives probed deeper. Russia wages info war. Portrays sabotages. Recon in Kherson district. As offensive start. Cross Dnipro. Reclaim Kherson city. Oblast. Persuade West. EU. Ukraine. Submit. Victory coming. Allies quit support.
ISW evaluates cognitive push conflicts territorial yields.
3 lessons emerge starkly. First signals desperation acute. Winning nation boasts authentic victories. No need for exaggerations. Fabrications. Here Russia concocts wild yarns. Shows weakened stance. Unanticipated after 2 years. Analysts foresaw hurdles. Resistance. Not this farce. Reduced to staged tales. Appear formidable. Vladimir Putin favors deceit. Propaganda. Fake tiny capture. Stage video. New nadir. Second lesson, Kremlin invests heavily. Convince West. US-EU nations. Winning war narrative. Mighty machine sweeps. Lands taken daily. Ukraine defenses collapse. Flag ascends everywhere. Untrue. Mountains of proof refute. 2 years.
Russian ground advances slow painfully.
Many areas key towns cities Ukraine held. Like Pokrovsk in Donetsk region. Losses astronomical. Over 1 million killed. Injured. Tanks wrecked countless.
Armored vehicles mangled.
Aircraft destroyed. Warships lost. Radars down. Air defenses obliterated. Open source data. Trends show. Experts predict years more. Full 4 regions capture claimed. Donetsk. Luhansk. Kherson. Zaporizhia. Full conquest elusive. Soviet-era jets reference Yak-38. Yak-141. Remnants battle-scarred. Yak-38 seen in pathetic flights. Yak-141 prototypes abandoned. Not victorious aces. Russian air power dwindled. Fabricated wins distract. Deception's heat builds. Can a spark ignite wider rout? Ukrainians counter decisively. Rakhny Station ambush.
Air assault group strikes Russian patrols.
44 dead. 8 wounded grievously. 9 yield. Ukrainian leadership boasts. Swift lethal. No mercy. Accusations fly.
Russians stuck attrition quagmire. Lives devoured small gains.
Donetsk stalemate. Sides immobilized.
Ukraine repels surges.
Concedes grudgingly. Shifts suddenly.
Ukraine shatters impasse.
Villages reclaimed. Momentum shifts ominously. Toward apocalyptic conclusion? Unveiled twist. Ukraine frees near Pokrovsk settlements. Druzhba falls hard. Russian grip fails. Not lone retakes. These crack war central. Peace talks teeter. Suketska battle highlights. 80-second separate storms forward. Coordinated ambushes. Hidden maneuvers synergize.
Drones buzz overhead. Thread fog like needles.
Mortars boom. Earth shakes violently. Russian lines crack audibly. Bone-like fractures. Yet Kremlin persists lies. Digital ghosts swarm. Bots chorus false glories. Paid mouths twist defeats to mesmerize. But fissures spread. Russians stir. Catastrophe dawns clear. Propaganda phrase. No veil hides Donetsk bloodbath. Quarantine hoax. Global eyes widen. Truth's blaze reveal. Cliffhanger emerges. Ukraine marches reclaim home's echoes. Will Putin unleash evil's blacker, or shatter under lies he wove? Soil scents blood ancient. Winds carry groans faint. Triumph's facade crumbles tactily. Each twist uncovers truths jagged. Can desperation birth awakening? We dive deeper now. Pause.